Hello, my astrology friends. This is Lada from astrolada.com, and these are your October 2024 video horoscopes using tropical or Western zodiac. And before I start for each of the 12 signs, I'm going to focus on what are the important events this month for the whole world and how they can manifest collectively. And of course, the biggest event this month is the last eclipse of the year. This is a solar eclipse, which means that the sun and the moon get together and the moon eclipses the sun. This is a solar eclipse of new beginning, but it is with the south node. The last time we had solar eclipse in Libra on the same degree with the south node was 2005 October. If you're old enough for that, think back, maybe there'll be some theme that repeats from back then, but at a different level. Actually, collectively, what happened around that eclipse 2 or 3 days later was the huge earthquake in Kashmir, which killed 86,000 people, something like that. Let's hope this time is not at this level, but as we know, usually some of the biggest eclipses happen, usually some of the biggest earthquakes or natural kind of shifts of layers and other natural events is around eclipse times. Because as we know, eclipses are fated events where the layers of, if you're a human being or the whole world, the layers of creation are being moved and adjusted so that your destiny and path is realigned to your more dharmic path. What does the dharmic path mean? The purpose of your soul. Many times we as humans distance themselves from the path that we're supposed to walk on. And around eclipse times, if the eclipse activates something powerful in your horoscope, like sun, the ascendant, the moon, because these are the self planets, then if we veered off the path of our soul's destiny, of our soul's desire, of the plan that the soul has for itself here to fulfill, usually then those eclipses can hit us harder with certain events that derail us but put us on the right track. So initially eclipses can feel, if we're not on the right path, more shocking, more crisis oriented, but eventually down the line, because an eclipse effect is 1 year, solar eclipse. So even if this eclipse starts for some of you, especially people with strong Libra Aries in some way, sun, moon, or ascendant, if it starts with some crisis or whatever house the eclipse falls for you in your horoscope, don't worry, because it's realigning with the right path. And often, some of the most important life events happen around eclipses, the fated one, the one that your soul was contracted about before it came to earth, like births, marriages, divorces, starting new jobs, meeting someone special that changes your life, giving birth to children, deaths as well. These are part of the big events of life that are kind of fated already. So these are the two types of events we can see, and people who are aligned on their path and who have not veered off. Usually eclipses bring, especially new moon eclipses, a new direction in their life. For everyone, it brings a new direction somewhere. And this eclipse is with the south node. South node eclipses, this solar eclipses, it is about new beginnings, but the south node is a very spiritual planet. So maybe something new comes into your life that adds more spiritual value to you. While north node eclipses, it brings something material into your life, something external circumstances, material that you gain. With the south node, there's a big shift internally, because the south node is a spiritual internal planet. So some of you might not even have anything happening in the external world, but there can be a big shift how you feel about something. And the south node is not a planet, but an energy, so to speak, when it causes the eclipse, because the south or the north node cause the eclipses. But when it's with the south node, like this time, this is much more about sacrificing something, giving up something so you can start something new, because the south node has this sacrificial energy. So we again, something new will enter our lives, depending which house it activates for you or which planet. It might be more internal, but at the same time, we might be asked to give up something, some kind of pleasure, something more worldly that we have to give up, some convenience, some material comfort around us. For example, I remember exactly when the last Libra eclipses with the South Node were in my ninth house. It happened 19 years ago, something. Was when I discovered astrology and I started studying it, and I had to give up a lot of my old, I would study 8 hours per day, so I had to give up a lot of my other things that I would do during the day, and I totally kind of went ascetic and dedicated myself to this new path. So I'm just giving you an example how the South Node new eclipses require, they bring something new direction that realigns you with your path in life. But at the same time, it requires you to give up some comfort, something material, some kind of a way of being that you're used to. So something might first have to go away, and it's best if you do it consciously with your own choice rather than you have to do it externally, something pressing you to do it. But whatever it is, remember, eclipses have, initially might be disturbing, but they're for good. And this eclipse in particular in Libra, let's see what it can mean for the whole world. It is with the Mercury. Some important news can come out. And it's with exactly conjunct, I don't have the shape for it, but it is also exactly conjunct Lilith, the black moon Lilith. As we know, she is the antipode or the opposite of Mother Mary, or it's more like the lower. Lilith symbolizes the lower impulses, the lower feminine impulses, which are more primitive. Of course, there's positive stuff about it, but I want to focus on that. So there might be secrets that are divulged about the lower, let's say, instincts and the lower behaviors, especially in relationships, because it's Libra, in interpersonal relationships of people. This might be in the news, like we have Sean Combs right now. Lilith is exactly about such activities, his freak offs or whatever it's called. And this eclipse, of course, eclipses in the news we're talking, not just for personal life, but also for personal life. You might become aware of those lower impulses, or you might discover such lower motivations of others whom you're in relationship with, personal, business, marriage, friendship. There might be such things that come out, those Lilith tastes to it, this the tending to the lowest desires in some sense. These things have to come to the surface with this eclipse. Something is karmically, kind of being right now revealed, or being basically bearing the consequences of your actions or someone else's actions in your life. We can hear about Libra. It's about people of arts, people of culture as well. And of course, solar eclipse is about people that are very important, celebrities and so on, that a lot of such information can be divulged. You see, eclipses are fascinating. It's already acting, even though it's a couple of weeks that I'm doing this video before the eclipse, and we're seeing it already. Wow, we just passed the eclipse, the full moon eclipse in Pisces, and everything over the last 1 month, even before the eclipse, has been about displaced people, immigration in the news. In America, there were big news. In England and Ireland, there was big news about illegal refugees and, people from foreign countries and locals fighting and so on, and deluges. Europe was like flooded. Bulgaria, where I'm as well, there was a lot of water disasters. Let's see, but as I said, the lunar eclipse starts acting a month before, carries on for 3 months. Solar eclipse starts acting a month before, carrying on for a year. A whole year of this we'll be dealing. Plus, it's being in Libra. Libra rules contracts, agreements between countries. Remember, we had a new moon eclipse in Libra with the South Node. The first one started last year, and it was in October, the beginning of October, right when, something like that, maybe a bit earlier. And I said there will be problems about war, or there will be something that broken contracts, or some, and this fragile peace that the Gaza broke, and the war in Gaza and Israel erupted around that time. So we have to watch out those war zones or other partnerships and collaborations between countries that one are given up and broken because the South Node energy dissolving there. Well, new coalitions are created, but again, really eyes on wars. Libra is the sign of peace and wars. And of course, this eclipse is square Mars. That's not a small thing. Mars really kind of pokes the fire of the fragile peace or the fragile negotiations there. So we have to watch for this. But thankfully, Jupiter is trining this eclipse. Last year it wasn't. At this time is trining, so and it's turning retrograde, so there might be some pullback and maybe new agreements that are being done. So I have more hope that this eclipse in Libra is not going to bring extra wars, but the situation will be held somehow because of Jupiter's positive influence. And the eclipse also falls on a star called Vindemiatrix. Right there, Vindemiatrix, it's in the constellation of the Maiden. She looks like an angel in one of the wings, but Vindemiatrix is known as a star of negative influence. It's known as the widowmaker. Maybe watching the news that someone famous passes and they left a widow or widower, I don't know, just something like that. There might be such news. Sometimes the stars are very literal, a widowmaker. But otherwise, you can expect on a more smaller level, this is in the matrix might be about, and I've seen it in horoscopes, people that have the star around 10 degrees Libra. Exactly that. They might have, not necessarily their spouse dies and they stay a widow, but they might have a divorce part of their path in life. So this eclipse can escalate new beginnings in your personal relationships, where you end up first one and the new one will come over the next 1 year, because remember, this is an eclipse of new beginnings, but it requires with the South Node some sacrifice or giving up something. So in personal business relationship or contractual relationships, there might be something that goes away first, that you know, the separation, but then you welcome new energy into your life and new people can come, because Libra is one of the signs of people, of relationships in some way. You can give up some contracts or promises that are no longer viable, and you can commit to new ones down the road. Vindemiatrix is also the grape gatherer, something to do with harvesting of wine, the star. Being eclipse, maybe it's a good thing, but we have to watch the harvests in the world and so on as well. That's another sign. So this is about the eclipse, which is on the 2nd of October, and we'll go through the 12 signs to see how it affects each one of you. But we have another big event this month, and that's that Mars is entering its shadow period in Cancer. There you go. From the 6th of October, Mars enters the degrees over which it will become retrograde over the next 5-6 months. And it will only exit the shadow period in April 25th. So for 6 months, or more than 6, almost 7 months, starting from October the 6th till April, till the end of April, we have Mars concentrated energy in Cancer and a bit into Leo. But from now on is the time to start watching from the beginning of October for specific events and trends which start now. We might have to be dealing with them and mobilize our energy. This is Mars, to mobilize one's energy, one's initiatives, one's fighting spirit, one's strength in a certain area of your life where you will have to overcome some obstacle, improve something. Mars either loves to improve things, to fix something that's not working well, to make it better. And when Mars becomes retrograde from December, we're really going to see the areas of life that are not working well, whatever it falls in your horoscope. We're going to start correcting them, but the trends will start now in October. So pay attention what is happening in your life. For some of you, it might be a relationship. For someone, it might be job. Depends which house Mars activates for you. And especially Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, especially Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, though, they would feel this Mars starting from October till April 2025 very strongly. If you have anything in Mars in those cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, of course, Cancer is the strongest. Watch out, there is some big work you have to do. And Mars in Cancer is considered debilitated in its fall, as they call it, What does it mean? It acts more impulsively. So all of us might start seeing that people are more reactive. You can see it even in the news now. I mean, before elections and everything, but now it starts escalating from October, and people are acting on their emotional impulses, and people are willing to fight for what they attach to. Cancer is the sign of emotional attachments, what you hold dear and near. Cancer is the sign of the mother. And imagine if a child is threatened, and that child is figurative. It doesn't have to be a child. It can be your culture. It can be your home. It can be your eating habits that you attach to. It can be bad habits that you attach to, something that you hold dear and near, and it's your crutch, and you think you can't live without it. You're so emotionally attached to it. It might be your culture. It might be anything. And then you're triggered emotionally with Mars there, and you're willing to fight. How does a mama bear fight when her children are threatened? And now we have to pick up our fights very carefully, because whatever fights start now in October, they might be prolonged till April, especially escalating during the retrograde period, December, January, February. And we really have to pick up our battles that are worth it. Yes, fight for something that is meaningful. Don't enter into conflict with people, because those conflicts can really escalate, go deeper, and even if it's court cases and such things. And it's advisable not to start the fight first. But if you have to defend now, Cancer in Mars, this is when it becomes very strong. We're very powerful. Then we mobilize ourselves to defend if something we hold dear is there. Or some of you might feel mobilized to help someone you consider dear, member of the family, extended family, or someone very close, a friend that you might have to help them through something. Also, you'll see now during the 6-month period, who are the ones that are willing to fight for you, that really care about you. You'd see that. But of course, Mars in Cancer, so pick your fights wisely, because if you explode, as I said, Cancer, Mars is very explosive, very emotional, just shoots, doesn't think, doesn't consider the actions. That's why the Mars is in fall, because it's this mama bear energy that can be destructive. But it can also be, I've seen many people with Cancer and Cancer Mars people. They're usually very gentle, peaceful people. Cancer is a peaceful sign until provoked. This is the energy of Cancer. The Cancer fights if it's attacked or provoked. If something you hold dear or whatever is threatened, then it bites, and then it can, take out this. It can become very scary, Mars in Cancer, when provoked. So if you have a noble battle and fight, believe me, Mars in Cancer will help you a lot, will help you, motivate you, give you the strength. But again, we have to be careful that we don't go fighting for things that are actually not so good for us. And another thing that Mars in Cancer, now let's speak more about the world. What can you expect? A lot of people will be moving. Cancer is the place of living, where you feel calm, safe, secure. And Mars is the planet of innovation and change, and a planet of even crisis sometimes. So some people might be forced to move because of the changing jobs, and because of that, they need to relocate. You see a lot of people moving over the next 6 months. A lot of people doing repairs or changes around their home. This is a good energy for that, actually. Mars in Cancer, to do repair, and it's stressful. Everyone knows if you have people working in your home, or if you're building something, it's very stressful energy, like Mars in Cancer. It's stressful. But it can be very productive. So you can use this energy to fix something around your home, to build up a outside kitchen or whatever, to do some renovations, like we are starting exactly that. But remember that the final result might be great, but it might be prolonged until, at least if you're thinking 2 months, well, Mars goes retrograde in December for any repairs. I'm talking about home. It might be till the end of February, March, even into April, that such kind of repairs take. And we all know when you start building something or repairing, it always takes much longer. That maybe has something to do that Mars in Cancer symbolizes exactly this energy, but this is a good energy to put your direction in. On another level, everyone might feel that people are much more tender and sore around them, reactive. Those patriotic feelings, Cancer is patriotism, the country. They can really, people be willing to, whether it doesn't matter what party you belong to or whatever, what your belief system is, everyone is patriotic and loves their, whatever their own in some way, but they'll be willing to fight more about such things. And it's people will be much more easily triggered emotionally and to explode. So keep this in mind. And if you feel also very triggered yourself, remember Mars in Cancer. One good way to dissolve this energy is take baths or go walking by, do something physical, which is Mars near water, which is Cancer, or even simpler way. Mars is something hot, Cancer is water. Drink warm water, hot teas, something like that. But Mars in Cancer is also the fire water. Cancer, alcohol, Mars, the fire water, so be careful with, especially alcohol, Mars in Cancer. If you have such inclinations, it can get worse, but also it can exactly show you. So there's two extremes of this, that it can get worse and you can be more easily triggered emotionally to want to use this kind of substances. But at the same time, this is perfect time when the retrograde starts from December to re-examine your behaviors around alcohol and to correct them and change them, because Mars will give you the willpower and it will be emotional trigger that will push you into that direction. So this is a good time for the highest vibration Mars in Cancer to harness, to correct such behaviors. But remember that people that are not consciously working on them, you can see a lot more people being boisterous on the streets, being emotionally reactive for the next 6 months under the influence of alcohol and so on. So you have to pick your battles very carefully again. Others, you see that Mars in Cancer, they might have a hunch, because Cancer is a very intuitive sign, and think, I have to relocate somewhere. And Mars is a planet that acts fast. And if you have such hunch, I think it will be correct, like universe or God or your higher self might want to relocate people en masse now, maybe go from one state to another, from one country to another, from one town to another. There is a lot of movement there for everyone collectively. And I have some good news, at least that's how I interpret it. Cancer is the market for real estate and so on. And we know that prices have doubled almost in the last 4 years. And I think now Mars retrograde there, maybe till sometime in February, there'll be a correction, or maybe till March, we'll see a correction of prices. Because what is retrograde Mars in Cancer? It's rethink it, make it more realistic if it's not, make it more accessible in some way, fix some problems there. So I think we'll see some adjustments of prices of real estate there. But first, problems can escalate. This will bring it to the attention of those above, and because Cancer also rules the normal people. So the normal people will get, their voice will be heard with Mars so long for 6 months in their sign. And those in power, in politics, will have to take them into consideration. But something will readjust prices of real estate and so on. Affordability, hopefully. But as I said, Cancer is the normal people. So we can expect the masses, which is what Cancer is. And Mars there, what will the masses do? They'll become angry. They'll, not saying they'll take up to arms, but this is what Mars energy is. So yeah, on a local level, conflicts and civil clashes are very likely over the next several months. Starting from October, look at the trends and then apply them to your life. Some trend can start, maybe new job for some of you. We'll talk about the 12th house in a second. So yeah, this is, and I think even though initially it might be stressful for the normal people, this Mars energy, where they're activated, but they will be heard, because you see the opposite sign from Cancer is Capricorn, which is the ruling people, the governments, and they would hear the normal people after Mars in Cancer for 6 months. I'm not saying already in October you'd see all of this, but by April 2025, you'd see that the people, the normal people, have won some battle that makes their life and what they hold dear and near, and what they attached to, that those in power had to listen to them and change something. So it's going to be more like a grassroots movements from the bottom up, that they win a battle of some sort. That is important for them. At every region and place, it will be a different level, but you notice that if you remember the symbolism of Cancer and Mars. So this is, guys, the two major events this month. Now we're going to go through the 12 signs. And just letting you know that I'm offering my 2 books on astrology that I've written together with my teacher on natal aspects, what it is to have Saturn conjunct Moon, are there remedies for it, how is the best way to handle it, or what is it to have Uranus square Mercury or something like that. I've written a book and I'm offering it for 30% off for everyone. It's 200 pages or something. And my other book is Transits. All transits, if Mars now is, like for many of you, will be squaring, or Jupiter will be passing somewhere through a house over a planet, what can you expect? So those 2 books, over 500 pages, the in E version, I'm offering them to you for 30% off for the next 2 weeks. Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising, October 2024. Aries, the month starts with a solar eclipse in your 7th house, exactly opposite you. Aries will be the other sign that really feels the solar eclipse, especially if you have your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, or some planet in Aries around the 10th degree of Aries. This can be life-changing. This can turn your life around. But if you watch the beginning of this video, I explained that this is either something that realigns us to the right track in our life, if we veered off the right track. You know, if you veered off the right track because you feel discontent, even if everything is all right in your life. And there is like realignment. It can happen through some kind of a crisis, as I said initially, but it's for good because it realigns you to your spiritual mission much more. And it will bring something new in your life, as I said, because this is a new moon eclipse, something new over the next 1 year. For some of you, because it's in the 7th house, it can be coming to you from other people. For example, you might end the partnership, business partner, because this eclipse also requires you to let go of something, to sacrifice something so the new can come in. Or in order for the new, you might have to sacrifice something. So Aries is very independent sign. For some of you, it can mean sacrificing your independence so you can accommodate another important person in your life. This can be a new friend, or it can be a new life partner. Often when there are eclipses on the 1st and 7th house cusp, especially if it's your ascendant in Aries or your moon in Aries, but I've seen it from the sun as well, very fated events in relationships happen. For example, I got married with eclipse on the axis of my sun, and another time I got married with eclipses on the axis of my ascendant. So it is and moon. So this is when you can meet fated partners, but also you can end fated relationships, relationships that their time is end. And not always it's about marriage, but again, for those of you who are single, even if you're not single, very important time over the next 1 year, starting from now, maybe even a month before the eclipse, that some fated, very important figure appears in your life. And there might be a past life connection with this person because the South Node is part of this eclipse, which is past lives. But you might have to give up something for that. You might have to give up, I don't know, the place where you live, or something that you're used to welcome this new person. Or it might be a new business partner that appears. It might be a new collaboration, because 7th house is, or a new contract that appears in your life. New agreement of some sort, because 7th house is not just people we marry or date. It's any kind of contractual one-to-one relationships. But first, you might have to give up something, and then something will come to you. Plus, the Mercury is part of this eclipse. Some news can come to you about important other in your life, or they might change something big in their life. So your partner might be changing in a big life, starting a new job or new lifestyle or something else, sometimes through a crisis. There is a crisis element many times to an eclipse that will shift the dynamic of the relationship, the energy of the relationship, especially in marriage. If something is happening with one partner or changing, it affects you as well. But again, remember, this is for the good, especially for the right alignment of your soul to its path. And because Lilith is part, or some news can come to you from others as well, that is important in some way, but Lilith is part of this eclipse as well. So for some of you, maybe much smaller number, but there might be some kind of news about some unsavory behavior, some lower vibrational behaviors connected to a person, important person in your life, partner or whatever, that they can be discussed with Mercury there. They can be addressed after the initial crisis. And if the relationship is strong enough, it can be taken to the next level, a new chapter in the relationship, or it might even end because this eclipse is with the star in the matrix, which is connected to divorce, widow making, the widow maker, and so on. Okay, but again, because it's a new moon eclipse, something new can come to you through others. Plus, it's not necessarily even others, because Aries here, if it's your sun sign in Aries in particular, so you're born March or April, this always full moons in around October for people with sun in Aries in particular, it's reactivation time, and even for sun or moon, a moon and ascendant in Aries, the sun eclipse is directly looking at you, so it mobilizes your energy again. Usually Aries start around March and April with renewed energy in life, new ideas. Sometime around midsummer it starts, going away. And half year from now is when October always, this eclipse is especially powerful. It's like full moon. Every time around the full moon in October, Aries get reactivated and they reassess their actions till now, and they get a second wind, so to speak. And usually some external influence, because it's from the seventh house, pushes them or activates them in that direction, or someone else. But that's the second wind we get, and this time is very powerful because it's an eclipse as well. So it can be even more motivational to act. You get activated. And of course, we have to talk, Aries, about Mars, your planet entering its shadow till from now, October the 6th till April 25th. So for 6 months, Mars will be pretty much just in your fourth house most of the time. And that's so important for you, because Mars, when it starts getting in from its shadow phase to its final shadow phase in April, it's closest to Earth, it's very bright in the sky. So this, even though it's going to turn retrograde in December, it gives you a push to act because it's so close to the Earth. Mars is bright. The brighter your planet is, for us Aries is Mars, the more you are asked to take action, the more visible you are, the more activities you have. So you're going to see some trends that are starting now in October. And you might be initiating something new, some new project, but I'm telling you, when Mars goes retrograde, you might have to revise it, mobilize your forces more. We'll talk about that more in the December videos, but it might be engaging you till April next year, basically, whatever you're starting in. Because it's in your fourth house, it doesn't necessarily have to do only with home and property, but for some of you, it can really be that area where, like, I'm an Aries sun and we're starting big renovations of our home in the USA. And they told us 2 months, and I'm like, they said they're starting in October. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be April at least, just knowing that, seeing Mars will go retrograde. But it's good time to use this energy. But you have to be careful not to, if you see some trends of fighting with family members, that might be something to try and stop it at the butt. What is it called? To nip it at the butt, as they say. If you can, because you still have some control over circumstances in October when those trends are starting. So there might be some crisis in the family. And if it's dependent in any way on you, your mood, your behavior, just heed this warning. Try to be less reactive. Try to kind of, count to 7 before you act. Try to calm yourself down before you react in some way, because it might create a much bigger problem for many months after that. But also it might not be dependent on your behavior. There might be some commotion happening in your family. In a more positive way, it might mean some project you're doing with family, extended family, as I said, real estate, moving property, something with your garden, something with, or there might be some changes. For us, it might be moving, it's repairing. So a lot of such kind of stuff that you will be putting a lot of energy, concentration, Mars energy. But just remember, Aries, till April, you might be much more emotional and reactive. But that's Mars is in a cardinal sign, again, like your cardinal sign. So sometimes we need that extra emotion. What is emotion? It's motion and motion to get us moving to do stuff. So now you can be starting new things, look for the trends. And of course, be careful not to fight with parents or whatever. Hopefully your mom and your father will be okay as well. You might have to help them with something and so on. That's how Mars will likely affect many of your areas. All right, now Taurus, Sun, Moon, or Rising. This eclipse is happening in your 6th house, the solar eclipse on the 2nd of October. And it's not directly aspecting you, so a lot of Tauruses might not even feel it unless you have something in Libra, ascendant, moon, some planets. But usually because this eclipse is not looking directly at you, you might, you might not feel it, but it will still activate your 6th house, whether it's from your sun, moon, or ascendant. So you can expect some developments in regards to this. And as I said, solar eclipse is about new beginnings, and it's connected maybe to your health habits, 6th house. But it can start with a crisis. You might have some aches and pains or some condition that activates you to change something in your lifestyle, because the 6th house, if health problem comes when 6th house is activated, the house of disease, it's not genetic or something like that. This is much more to do with your lifestyle, how you eat, how you exercise. Is your environment toxic? Do you overwork yourself? Do you sleep enough? And so on. So this eclipse might ask some of you to pay real attention to those topics and to actually really transform it, to realign. You remember what I said at the introduction, that eclipses realign us to the right path of your soul. So in regards to health or health practices that you have, maybe change medicine, different diagnosis, change lifestyle in some sort. And eclipses can make those changes very fast, and this eclipse is active for a year. And of course, it's with Lilith, it can show you some unhealthy, because Lilith has a negative connotation in astrology. It can show you especially health issues that are created by lower desires, the lower, more primitive desires of the lower chakras that you might have to correct. I hope it's not excess masturbation or something. Sorry, don't want to be silly, but something excess for the appetites, that it can really help you correct those. But it entails, it's with the South Node, this eclipse. The South Node is to sacrifice something, to give up something, a habit, a way of, being. So there is a bit of a giving up element to that, so then you can enter your life. But it's not just health. For some of you, Taurus, might be that some of you might start a new health routine, and also such that actually connects you closer to God, because the South Node is the energy that connects us to God in some way, to the spiritual world. Some practices for your health, they don't necessarily need to be very physical, whatever, but there might be even more spiritual practices that you start that really transform your health over the next 1 year. But also 6th house is work. So some of you Tauruses might have a big change at work. You might start even from September, but especially the next 2-3 months is very intense. You might give up one job and take up a new one. There is new energy coming there. It's a new moon. But you might have to give up or finish one first before, or give up some comforts or way of habits that you have around current job. Even if you're not changing a job or a project, you might have to give up certain way of doing that job and introduce new methods, new techniques, new methodology, new I don't know, even using new softwares for some of you, using new programs, using new tools, you know, this is about such kind of the work environment and how it is done. So there is some change you can do there, definitely. And it can be about employees, letting go of some, bringing in new employees for some of you. But there is definitely some career that is fated or job or project that you can start for some of you. And then the other big event is that Mars is entering its shadow period. So now from around the 6th of October, even before that, look out for trends, Taurus. In your third house, something will start happening that will give you idea how the next 6 months till the end of April 2025, where you're going to be mobilizing your energy. This is Mars. Wherever Mars stays for 7 months almost in Cancer, a little bit dips into your fourth house, but Mars is mostly helping Tauruses. It's sextiling this whole 6 months period. But depending if you have some planets in Cancer, it can, or Aries, or Libra, or Capricorn, it can still escalate and make the situation stressful at moments, but you might have to mobilize your energy, especially in regards to this third house. With communications, you might be starting some project, business project, connected with writing, with speaking, with media, with marketing, with advertising, or you might be starting learning something. Third house is skills, acquiring skills that can help you expand your third house is also the house of self-made wealth, using your own skills and knowledge. So you might embark on such kind of things, and you can see those trends from October. And when Mars turns retrograde in December, January, February, you might be required to put extra efforts to change something about this. So some of you might be starting course, studying something, which is a good way to channel those Mars energy in the third house. So some project that will require a lot of your mental focus, writing, speaking, communicating, whatever skills you have, to really kind of mobilize them. This is more mental energy, or hands, the energy of the hands. So you might be starting to take on some skills with the hands, whatever it is, or learning something new. But you might feel emotional in this process, and your communications, I have to warn you. So the best way is to do something practical with this energy, learn new skills, then or some project. Maybe you might start a project with a group of people, because third house is working in a group with some team, and it might be intense there. There might be power fights for domination, or in the team environment, who's going to be on top, or, but still, it doesn't have to be negative. You can do something very productive with this energy, like a final result, like a product, but you have to be aware that in working in group with people, communications with people, because third house is the house of communications, many of you can feel that others are extra sensitive, that you're extra sensitive, that they take everything personally and are ready to bite and attack, say some harsh words. And I advise you, this October, don't start fights with others unless you're being provoked and attacked, and you have to defend, especially verbal words, written wars, online fights. Some people just start fighting with others online, and because third house rules all of those things. Be mindful of such behaviors, unless you have a really good reason for that, because you can be drawn out in a long battle, or with siblings and relatives. Some trend might appear for some of you Tauruses, that some important developments with a sibling, with relatives, with teammates, with those from your near environment in some way, they might involve some either having to work hard together towards a common goal where you mobilize your energies together, or it might have to be like some battle and fight that is happening. I wish for you that it's something productive, but these things happen, that we can have some fight with the relatives or teammates or whatever around us. And you'll notice that you become much more combative with your expression and words again. Use it rightly. If you're a lawyer, you might be really if you're a defensive lawyer, it can be great for you. You can have the power. But also, I remember I had Mars retrograde in my third house, not in Cancer though. So it was in Aries. So it was much more easier to control it rather than in Cancer. And I was in a very feisty mood to fight. Third house, Mars loves being in the third house. In ancient Vedic astrology, this is its favorite house because it really gives courage to a person and motivation and willpower. When Mars, even if you're someone who doesn't have strong willpower, now with Mars in your third house till April, you'd notice that your willpower increases to do things you were afraid to do before, but now you have the courage, now you have the willpower to do it. So I see that you can really do something extraordinary here. Mars loves being there, but again, choose your battles and where you put this energy wisely. I gave you some directions where it's good for. Also be careful with devices, electronic devices, credit cards is also third house, or anything that you do transactions with. Because Mars, there can be some damage there to your phones, to your laptops, to your communication devices, breaking it, someone stealing it. If Mars is doing hard aspects to other planets in your horoscope, starting from October and over the next 4 or 5 months, you might have some problems with transportation as well. Watch out if you see such trends in October. Whatever the trends are now, they'll usually stick till the rest of this transit. Transportation, cars, vehicles, it can be a good time to repair something if you can. And also in travel, I have to advise you, third house is traveling, whether you're driving, whether you're taking a bus. You might actually feel much more mobilized to travel. Definitely over the next 6 months, there can be a lot more movement. For example, some of you might have to travel every day to another town and back, or take different routes or something, but there is a lot more movement of interactions, busyness in your everyday life. For 6 months ahead, busyness, your mind with your interactions with others and so on. But at the same time, you have to be careful. You have to not to be rushed and overly emotional in traffic, because Mars in Cancer can be quite emotional. And just be aware of those things so you can be on top of that energy rather than this energy playing with you any way it wants. I actually had last time Mars was retrograde, was in my third house from the sun. And I really rethought and I started reading a lot. I was doing a lot of videos because it gives you energy to do anything third house, writing, speaking, marketing, advertising. I was really doing so much media work. It was a very busy period for that, for months and months. So you'll be busy with mental work, but at the same time, I was really starting to read a lot, especially about education, because third house education for children and so on. And I got a different alternative perspective on education over those 6 months. So yeah, it can be very simple way it manifests, but they can be as well. I remember we traveled a lot locally during that time. A lot like short trips, because Mars gives you this energy. But again, you have to be careful with Mars that you're not too impulsive, So there you go. Now, Gemini, Sun, Moon, Rising. Gemini, the eclipse on the 2nd of October, it's going to be in your 5th house. So in its influence, you might feel it even a month before that, up to 3 months very strongly, but the whole year ahead might be under its influence. And don't worry, you already had another eclipse in the 5th house last year, new moon eclipse, similar to that, just at different degrees. Some of you might not have felt anything last year. Some of you might have felt, but they won't feel this year. It's not always a given. You always feel it. But this one is around 10 degrees in Libra. So if you have anything around 10 degrees, Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, maybe from 5 till 15, you can feel it stronger. But actually, it's not bad. It's supportive. But Mercury is very close. And it's also kind of eclipsed. And you're ruled by Mercury. So you're directly involved in this eclipse. And where is it? What is it activating for your 5th house? So there can be some powerful development for some of you in regards to almost because this is about new energy, new moon eclipse, like downloading new creative information, new idea that illuminates you, that is very almost like fate that you were supposed to have, your higher self wants you to have, because South Node that the eclipse is with is very much about channeling around as well, channeling from invisible worlds, from higher or lower realms. We never know. So you can almost like download some great idea, watch around the end of September and the whole of October. Do you get with some new idea that is your own original? It might be about a business, because fifth house rules anything that we create from scratch, which is like our own baby. Or it might be about another original idea to change something in your life, to do it differently in some way. So there is this powerful activation for that. And you can, being there, Mercury, your Mercury, you might, from October onwards, start acting on this new creative idea, but you might have to give up something for it. So you have a brilliant idea about something and you begin it in October, or within, the effects of the eclipse for the next 2-3 months. The South Node requires you to give up something. It might be some comfort, some good times, for example, because you might have to put a lot more energy. Say you're starting your own business, your own creative idea, of something to fulfill. Fifth house is, how do you want to build your kingdom? What is it that the fifth house is the house of your kingdom, your dream life? How do you want to create it? And you have to give up something with the South Node there. Definitely might be having fun times, how you have fun, spending with your hobbies and leisure time of some sort. But also this eclipse can indicate fifth house is your love life. They can be a reset of your love life. And unfortunately, sometimes eclipses can start with a bit of a crisis. Not for everyone. If your love life is on the right path, there is not much to correct. It can just bring you someone, if you've cleaned up a lot, of misconceptions about love and realigned yourself there. This eclipse can really bring you love, a big love, falling in love, or even if it's not a person, it can be something that you consider like a big love. Sometimes I've even seen pets, fifth house connection, or I've even seen fifth house is children. That can be a new love of your life that this eclipse activates. Like I had 2 eclipses in the fifth house from my son in Leo. When these were the 2 years, both of those eclipses, when I got pregnant and had children. So sometimes an eclipse can bring a child, but you have to sacrifice something for sure. That's a given. But it's about aligning you closer to your soul mission. And the fifth house is also the house of your love life. So we said that. And even if love comes, it might has past life connection there. Or someone even from the past of it, because of the South Node, it's connected even past lifetime or early in your life connection, but there might be this immediate recognition. But this eclipse is on Vindimatrix, kind of a star that's connected to divorce. So if you're in a relationships, romantic or separations, romantic relationships which are not very healthy, and especially since the eclipse is with this little point in the sky called Lilith, the dark moon Lilith, there can be some unsavory information, Mercury, that you find out about a romantic situation that instigates a separation. But don't worry, because this new moon eclipse says someone new will come, and someone that you're much more karmically connected with. So for some of you, more extreme cases, maybe let's say 4 or 5%, small number. If you're in this part of your life, on that area, this can activate such activities, such developments. Then fifth house is also connected to your good karma, by the way. And this eclipse activates it in some way. This is the good karma we stored from past lifetimes. And a solar eclipse is like a full moon, which is active, like a new moon, but on steroids. So there is something that there is a new gate from your good karma being unlocked for you, Gemini. Something, it can be even like luck, or like if it's your karma, fifth house is winning from lotteries and so on. So why not try playing, especially since you have Jupiter in your sign. And as I said, whatever is happening, Jupiter will protect you, Gemini. It is in your sign. Jupiter will, whatever this eclipse means, it's for the best, it's for the good. Jupiter is helping you start new direction in your life now, new inspiration. And this eclipse can unlock new luck for you or old karma luck from past lifetime luck, good karma from your good actions from the past. So something lucky can come on your path now. And of course, Jupiter is going retrograde at the beginning of this month as well in your sign, Gemini. We shouldn't miss this, which means there can be some sudden direction in your life, whether it's your sun, moon, or ascendant. With your moon, a change, for example, in your personal life. But because it's Jupiter, it's for good. But there is some change of wind. If things have been going one way, now they start going another way. Or maybe some lost opportunity of something that you wanted to do that kind of sounded great idea, but it didn't happen, can come back to you now over the next 4 or 5 months. Well, Jupiter, 4 months approximately, while Jupiter is retrograde in your sign, Gemini. You might have a second chance at something, and it's for good because it's Jupiter brought us second chance of opportunity, of wealth, of second chance at the relationships, because Jupiter rules your 7th house. When it starts going retrograde in your first house, second chance of a relationship, second chance of a partnership, second chance of Jupiter also rules your 10th house. In regards to your career, can be something, second chance that comes to improve it, to make it better. But there is a shift, how things have been going till now, something starts changing. And you might feel like as well, things are not moving as fast, but don't worry, it's like being ingrained, this energies of Jupiter, of growth, of depth, of wisdom, they're now gonna get more internalized in you. So you're not just express the Jupiterian energies externally of expanding, sometimes putting on weight, sometimes, growing things in your life, but it's going to go more internalized, where you can internalize the energies of growth, of knowledge, of wisdom, of higher morality, of higher principles. So a lot of those topics, you'll be concerned with them while Jupiter is retrograde in your sign, and you'll be able to internalize those higher virtues of Jupiter: compassion, knowledge, wisdom, seeing things from a higher perspective, getting answers, deep understanding, healing of past wounds, forgiveness, and so on. And epitomizing the energy of wealth, the energy of abundance, getting it, working on it from inside, maybe some spiritual exercises about believing in yourself, about confidence, about abundance, and so on. Can be great during Jupiter retrograde in the first house. And of course, you have Mars going in its shadow from the 6th of October, and will stay in your second house almost till April 2025, the end of April. So now you're starting some trend, Gemini. You're going to notice it. That might be connected to your finances, where you'll be asked to mobilize a lot of your energy into doing something to secure the financial stability of your family, your own financial stability. Second house is to do with your assets, resources, money, valuables, investments. So you might be start see a trend of shifting investments or mobilizing yourself to make more money somehow. And Mars will go retrograde there. There might be some stressful situations when it's retrograde, and readjustments and having to change something or re-examining your spending, your budget. But at the end, by April, May, a lot of you, if you put the right energy, and it wasn't the destructive side of Mars, which is to spend, to go recklessly under the emotional influence of Cancer, invest your money in a thing that will, some pyramid or some scam, But if you do it with hard work, Mars, and smart as well. Mars can be strategic planet, is the planet of the general, and generals are strategic. If you do it like that, and possibly through some advice of others, because Jupiter is the planet protecting you this year, and it rules others, advisors or whatever, and it's in your sign, possibly with advice from others, you can, by April, May, you might really grow your investments according to the actions that you took. Not only grow your investments, but your earning potential, your money, your material security. So now you can take some actions to change, to innovate your financial situation, start working hard on something that will create more material security through your investments and whatever. But second house is also the house of teeth. Some of you over the next 6 months. And watch out, do you start having a toothache? Because Mars is something that can be infection, whatever. Start watching for that, because that might, and try to nip it in the bud quickly at the beginning. So if you wait too long and Mars going retrograde after that in January, February, in your second house might get, you don't want when Mars is retrograde to do your tooth work. So if you have any tooth work to do, try and do it now, Gemini. If it's not that, maybe you see just more the financial and money side to it now. So focus your energies there. While Mars is moving direct in the shadow till December, you still have more control over the events. When it starts turning retrograde, your things are already set. You can't influence them. So you still have some free will October and November to influence the direction of things. So if there's some expenses that are coming your way, some sudden expenses, or, how are you going to react? Again, advising with someone. I remember my partner long time ago had Mars retrograde in his second house. I always tell this story. And exactly when it started going, a little bit before it even went retrograde, someone stole his phone and made a calls for $20,000, his work phone. And his job said you have to pay it. And he says, I'm not paying that. It's a scam. I'm not paying 20. And the whole Mars retrograde in the second house, he was like for 3 months was fighting with the company and saying, I'm not going to pay. And at the end, he didn't pay, but it was a fight, So Mars is there, especially Mars in Cancer. You might have to fight for something that you consider that you're very attached to, especially materially. It's a possession, or it can be something to do with your family, because second house also rules family in ancient astrology. You might have to fight there for something to preserve, or to for rights, or for, hopefully you're not going to fight with family. That's one thing, but he was fighting with that. Plus he found alternative sources of income, and by the time this fight ended, he had gathered the money needed to be paid, and he had found a way how to make it. So, Mars, such a long time in your second house, can make you ingenious and innovative about finding money. So at the end, he didn't have to pay the other money, but he had the extra money that he made. So sometimes you're forced by external circumstances when Mars is in the second house to think about money, to change something there, to find alternative ways over the next 5-6 months. But sometimes you can initiate it on your own. So that's why I'm telling you earlier, before Mars goes retrograde there, start now from October, November. If you can make some changes, advise with someone else. Don't be rash. And then you can be, you can go really well through this period. Second house is also food, how we eat, what we put in our body. With Cancer there, it might be even substances that can be poisonous, alcohol and such things. You might really change that. And I would advise you starting from October, but look out for those trends. Maybe the big shift will happen when Mars goes retrograde, especially in January, February in Cancer. The big change that you change how you eat, your tastes, your appetite. Something with your appetite you can be working, putting your willpower and energy. This is Mars there to really change it. But definitely from October, the first trends in that direction you can notice, and you can start influencing them in the direction that you want. Remember, you have more free willpower now. All right, Cancers and Gemini, sorry. So don't forget that my book are 30% off on personal transits and personal aspects between the planets. Okay, Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising. The eclipse is happening in your 4th house, Cancer. And it is a house that is very close and dear to you because it's the house of family. It's naturally the house of Cancer. So you might, and naturally when the moon eclipses the sun, you're the moon. So the moon, you participate in our eclipses. Oftentimes, Cancers start feeling more intuitive, more psychic around eclipses, but also they can start feeling more agitated as well. So if you've been feeling a bit intense the end of September, October, no, this is because of the eclipse. Remember, eclipses shift and readjust the layers, and it's happening right at the foundation of your horoscope, Cancer, what you're standing on, your foundation, the family, the feelings, where you have your feet down. So you might feel like a little bit that there is a shifting of the layers underneath you, and you might feel like a little bit like that. So for some of you, it might be actual events that are happening. For others, might be just like a feeling. Eclipses don't always activate serious external, and I said this eclipse might be more internal because it's with the south node, but it's not always, they don't always activate actual events in life. Sometimes it's just changing of the emotional layers within you, how you feel about something, because the fourth house. But especially if you're a Cancer sun, moon, or rising from 5 to 15 degrees, 10 degrees, the eclipse is happening in Libra. That's, my husband is 10 degrees Cancer. That's exactly squaring your sun, moon, or ascendant. There can be some more obvious external events, some big change happening in your family with place of living, father, mother, or your own family, your own house, what you call your house. And this eclipse is about new beginnings because it's new moon eclipse. But it might, new beginnings, but there is the element of giving up something, maybe giving up a place you're living to move to a new one, maybe giving up some furniture, or maybe saying goodbye to a member of your family to make a change in your family. Maybe giving up some comforts of your daily home life because a new member is coming into your family over the next 1 year. Because, an eclipse influences you for a year, especially strongly the next 6 months. So Cancers, the next 6 months, some big shift can be happening. You might be relocating, changing, doing something about the home, property, real estate, and such matters. There might be some documents that need to be signed, some important conversations around this eclipse, October, part of November, because Mercury is part of the eclipse as well, with family, deciding what to do with family and so on. And it can even be like settling down for some of you, starting a family. But there is the South Node energy. There's the element of having to sacrifice something. And unfortunately, sometimes an eclipse can, if you're not aligned to your intuition, to your higher self, if you're not aligned to the right path and the right place, it can start with a crisis. But eventually, this eclipse will align you to the right place to live, the right way to feel, the better. So it might start with a crisis with family members, in your relationship with them, or in their life. Not this, but there is, I'm giving you the most extreme possible ways that can happen, just so you know. And but as well, remember, whatever is happening, it wants this eclipse to align you to your higher self, to the path that if you look back at this event a year later or months later, you say, oh, I'm so glad this happened. I felt like, oh, I have to move now, or something's happening with a family member. I'm so glad it happened because now it took me to a better place in some way. So remember that. And interestingly enough, and also it can be just some shifting of layers about how you feel about yourself. This is the house of happiness, emotional happiness, feeling emotionally settled, feeling emotionally grounded. So some of you, it might be just shifting of the layers there, revealing, because the South Node loves to dig deep into the past, and revealing some secrets about your family members, or your past or childhood, or not necessarily, and there might be some of them unsavory, because Lilith is part of this eclipse, and Lilith, as we know, is connected to the lower impulses, to the darker side of the human psyche. You might discover certain such elements. To some, I'm talking, not every Cancer will do that. I'm giving, maybe one of you will, maybe a few of you that watch this video, but some information can come out, Mercury, from the past, South Node that is dug out, that actually frees you. The South Node is a freeing influence, even though it might feel unsavory, even though it might feel a bit dark. but it might free you from a family pattern. It might free you from the chains, because South Node is about being freed to begin new beginnings, new moon eclipse. Free you emotionally to be free from something of the past. So you can dig out some big epiphanies about childhood with a psychologist, or without, even about your past in some way, about ancestry. Even do some work with family constellations, ancestral healing of some sort possible. And now the other big event, Cancers, is that Mars, I think Cancer this month is Cancer, Libra, Aries, and Capricorns are the ones that are having the most important changes this month. Mars is entering its shadow period. It's going to stay in Cancer pretty much till April 25, April 25th, 2025. It will jump out for a month here into Leo, but it's most of the time starting now from the 17th degree in Cancer. So anyone who is from 15 degree, we're giving it an orb, even 14 degree, till 30 degree, the second part of Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, get ready. Even the previous Cancers as well, because it's still going to be in their sign, the earlier Cancers, but the second from 15 to 30 degrees Cancers, it is coming. Mars is the planet that is the soldier, wants you to mobilize your energy, wants you to mobilize your strength and to focus your energy like laser point, like horse with blinkers, not blinkers, horse with whatever it's called this, in some area of your life. And you're going to get the signs what it's going to be, where you're going to be mobilizing your energy and putting a lot of efforts, maybe fighting for something, maybe protecting something, maybe doing some important grand work and changing something. Mars is a planet of change and innovation in a big way. And from October, you're going to see the signs of this, what you have, where you have to mobilize this energy, because you see Mars is there and starting into those degrees where it's going to be retrograde. And some of you might, if it's your ascendant, for example, even Sun and Moon, might decide to mobilize yourself to start working out. This is a great way to use it, this energy. Others, because Mars rules your 10th house, might start a new career project, or might become more ambitious into some direction, or some of you might start having some problems with authority or father figures already. And I say, don't, try to pick up your battles wisely, because you'll be on that battlefront for 6 months at least, especially till the end of February. That will be intense. And if there is some interactions with authority figures, institutions, bosses, people of power, let's say, they can be very useful for you. They can motivate you, activate you into changing something, but maybe in a more crisis way, like they tell you and you have to do it, but still it might be very good to mobilize you, to give you this initiative force, but there might be confrontation with these figures. So just have to warn you to be careful, and to proceed with more strategic action. And this is Mars. I would advise you to be strategic already from October, not when Mars turns retrograde, because then it's already late. Then it's like you're just reaping the consequences. Now you have more free will. Well, Mars is in your first house, moving direct, but in shadow, in the area where it's going to be retrograde, where you can influence events much more. So you can influence events in the direction you want to go in regards to your career. You can influence events how you want them to go in regards to your love life. Mars rules the 5th house. And children. So hopefully it's not going to be battles with bosses or children that Mars will do there. But you can kind of start making changes there. So when Mars is retrograde, you can be putting those into action, and there is not such a big power struggle. But it definitely can mobilize you for some ambitious project and so on. And when it goes retrograde, you might have to redo and so on. But you're expected to be much more proactive now. But I know I have to warn you that you will be also much more reactive. It is Mars in Cancer. After all, you might feel like people are pressing on your toes, especially authority father figures, or Mars also rules 5th house, might be children or loved ones, 5th house. It might be others overall. You would feel triggered, or you might feel like you're called to arms for some battle. It might be a great battle. Might be a battle for your health, well, that's not always, but like to mobilize yourself to work out, to be physically active. Mars is great to build muscles. It will be in your seventh house, or to start working out for, especially, or at least to drink hot water. That's very important to cool the emotions down. Hot water helps for that, by the way. But just know that you'll be more reactive if you catch yourself. Use this fire for good. Use this fire to change something. Some of you, Cancer sons, for example, might be asked to do some important thing, project, goal in their life, where you have to mobilize a lot of your energy. And you might think it will be done in 2 months, but it might be more like 6-7 months until Mars leaves Cancer, because it will go retrograde there. And of course, you have to be cautious about your health, because it's Mars, inflammatory conditions. I would advise you already from October to start working out, or becoming more proactive about your health, because when it goes retrograde, such kind of any inflammatory temperature, heat, or accidents as well, to be careful with accidents a bit more. But you know what? I'm not so worried about accidents and about cancer risings in particular, because, okay, I have sun and moon as well, because Mars rules good houses. Mars actually for Cancer is what we call benefic planet. It rules the 10th house of action and 5th house of inspiration, coming into your first house, especially if it's your ascendant or moon sign. Okay, we can add the sun sign. It can be like there is some inspiration that you download, some idea that you have, and you can act on it. It's called Cancer. Mars for Cancer is called like a Raj Yoga planet that gives success. So not only inspiration, but action. So there might be, the best way it can manifest for you is some kind of you get inspired to do something, you get mobilized, and you act on it. Because it temporarily, for 6-7 months, creates for you this success yoga, even though Mars in Cancer gets frustrated, gets emotionally reactive, impatient, and come on. And yeah, you might not be the most enjoyable person to be around for the next 5-6 months, but you can do something incredible. These mobilizations of your forces, as the rule of the 5th and the 10th in your first house, creating a success yoga, you can do something great, and somehow the universe is helping you behind. All right. So yeah, Cancer, big events. Of course, be careful about fighting with close and dear ones, but you'll be very motivated to move mountains, to change your life, to make big transformations in your life. Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, October. Leo, the month starts with an eclipse in your 3rd house. On the 2nd of October, depends where you live. And this eclipse, you might feel it even a month before and up to 3 months after that, but its impact can be even longer, affecting your life for the next 6-7 months or more. But it's in a good aspect to your sign. It does not directly affect you in some way, but it can impact the 3rd house for you. And for some of you, it might be very subtle changes. That is nothing external. It might be on the internal level, how your mind is changing, how you think, as the 3rd house is your internal narrative, how you talk to yourself in your mind and how you talk to others as well, how you communicate. And this can be this inner shift because it's with the South Node. It has very internal energy. For many of you, might be just that you have some epiphany, how you talk to yourself, and that you start in a new way to talk to yourself. To forgive yourself, to be kind to yourself, the words that you say to others as well. Or it might happen through a crisis of some sort, some conversation or some interaction with another or with a few other people in your environment, which triggers you to change your way of communicating, to change your way of internal self-narrative as well. And that can be for good, but you might have to give up certain ways, because the South Node is there to give up certain ways of communicating, certain way of thinking. But also 3rd house is your environment. What are the people around you that you surround yourself daily? It might be your neighbors, your coworkers. It might be people that you communicate on social media with, people that you follow on social media. Where do you that information that comes in your mind, where does it come? Is it from TV, from news, from what kind of things are you putting in your head? And this is what this eclipse wants to change on a deep level. So you might have to give up certain sources of information. You might have to give on certain people that you communicate with, because the South Node energy requires you to eliminate something, to let go of it. Maybe you might disrupt the communication with sibling or relative, or eliminate someone from your close environment, or maybe some social account you might delete. But this will make space for those new thinking patterns, for those new renewed environment around you that is purer, because the South Node has pure energy, pure kind of more spiritual energy, more like a blank slate energy there. And even to so it might externally might involve letting go of certain social connections, associates, and so on, the things that they enumerated, to let in new environment, so new people can appear in your life over the next few months, or some big change might happen in the life of siblings, relatives, in your relationships with them. But again, it is for good. Even if it starts with a crisis, it's trying to realign you to the right way of your soul that wants things to be there. So something about your social environment might be changing there. And there is this energy of third house about moving, changing, traveling, or relocation as well. That might be a theme for you for the next 6 months, just giving it out. Plus, not to mention, you'll see after that Mars retrograde, Mars being in your 12th house, ruling the 4th house of place of living, and the 9th house of foreign countries. You see how it can fit in for some of you about moving or considering such matters. But something can also click in your mind, change, that you see things differently with your internal eye in some way. A third house can also be connected to short trips, but of course, always around exactly the eclipse. Try not to travel on the first, second, third, if possible, because eclipse is a tumultuous energy, shifting of layers there. It can have some unexpected developments. But after that, there might be an activation of more traveling, especially it might be short distance, or even longer. It's aspecting the 9th house. There is this energy about moving, about starting to learn something new. You see, you're emptying your mind of certain information and ways of doing things, which is the 3rd house, how you're used, like certain skills and ways, but you are allowing new ones to enter. So some of you might start a course of study. I remember I'm a Leo moon, and I remember 2004 and 5 when there were eclipses in Libra again with the South Node in my 3rd house from the moon. I started my first astrology course. You can discover something new to study, to learn, new skill, I started 3 courses actually: jewelry making, astrology, and so there is this energy of you opening to study something, to learn something, to acquire new skills as well. And South Node being there might be even skills you carried in past lifetimes. Who knows? You might be naturally quite good at them. All right. So 3rd house might be also about new electronic devices, new social media that you start. 3rd house is very much connected about business, very much connected about marketing, media, advertising. This eclipse there can trigger you to shift something in your campaigns if you're a business person, or to start some project in a small group environment where you have to work in a team with people, because it's a new moon eclipse. Something new is gonna come there, and something new, whether it's with skills, whether it's with writing, a new writing project, a new website that is required to focus your attention for the next 6 months, for example. And new people coming into you, but there is this South Node connection with them. Maybe you're connected through more spiritual means, through more spiritual themes in your life in some way. All right, this is about the eclipse. But then we have another big event happening this month. Mars is entering its shadow period. This will be from 17 degrees Cancer till 2 degrees Leo. It will come here December the 6th, and it will start moving till February 20 something back into your 12th house, and it will stay there till April, till sometime in April. So now you're going to start seeing trends the moment Mars from the 6th of October, even earlier, when it enters those degrees where it's going to be retrograde later on. Themes, watch out what is happening in the beginning, the first 10, 15 days of October. Those, or the whole October, I would say. Whatever new things are starting, or some trend in your life, it will require you to mobilize your energies for the next 6 months almost. Because Mars is where do we put our energy, our focus, our hard work, and it might require us to fight for something, but it might be more of an internal battle for you because it's in your 12th house. And it might be in 12th house rules our self-sabotaging behaviors, our inner demons, our traumas that we haven't coped with from past lifetimes or early childhood that are buried, we've forgotten them. And this Mars now can start awakening those and bringing them to the surface of your consciousness, out from the subconscious. And it might happen in your dream world as well. It might happen in a way that it's somehow you start some memories that you've forgotten start coming, flooding, or you might start dreaming about people from the past and themes that you know about because you're working through those traumas over the next 6 months, those unsolved feelings, those suppressed, especially if there was anger there, if there was anger or some violence or some might have been self-directed anger or for external that this Mars day in the 12th house is asking you to work through over the next few months. So that can be great for breakthroughs if you work with a psychologist, if you're into astrology, into some kind of spiritual studies like human design or anything to do with discovering the subconscious and the subconscious motivations and the subconscious fears and the self-sabotaging behaviors. That's why 12th house is all addictions, because they usually, addictions come from some trauma and processed feelings. So this can be a fantastic period for some Leos. If you have such, everyone has some addiction, some impulsive feelings and actions, to work through them. First, they might intensify actually, because this Mars there might first intensify those impulsive behaviors that are self-harming or self-sabotaging, like addictions, as I said, but it will bring them more to the surface so you can examine them. And especially if you're involved in spiritual work and self-introspection, and Mars helps with self-introspection very well when it's in the 12th house. And out of anger or you might decide to change something and you can really work through those. I remember when Mars was retrograde, and Mars is not becoming retrograde yet, but it was a 6-month period. I was dreaming a lot about things that I had anger about, and I was working through those things and things that a lot of anger that was, for me, was one that, because I'm passive angry, I direct everything towards myself, so I hurt myself. And that's why a lot of my addictive behaviors were hurting myself. Others, explode and hurt others, but especially such ones internally directed. I worked through them in dreams and had very violent dreams. Just warning you, very emotional, violent, sometimes sexual, because Mars is also sexual energy. So if you start having very vivid dreams, just remember Mars in the 12th house is going to be there a long time. And don't be like, oh, this horrible. It's like, okay, my higher self, my subconscious is working through those issues. Maybe try to analyze them to understand what it is. But it's also, sometimes it can be problems with sleep, like waking up, being more agitated, not being able to sleep so well, or something in your sleep environment that is Mars-like, or even in your bedroom. Some of you might be as simple as doing some renovations in the bedroom. 12th house rules your bedroom, your place of rest, or bathrooms as well. So it might be some of you that, because Cancer is home, house, Mars is to repair, to fix, might be doing renovations in your bedrooms, in your bathrooms, and these might prolong themselves because Mars will go retrograde of trying to fix some water damage or something like that. But for others, and again, this corresponds to you working through those watery and fiery emotional feelings inside of you that were not processed, but you can have big progress over the next 6 months in that direction. But let's see more material how it can manifest. Mars rules your 9th house and your 4th house, and it goes in the 12th house for almost 6 months. 12th house is foreign countries. 9th house is also foreign countries. 4th house is place of living. Some of you, I'm not saying all Leos, but there is some small percentage of you that it might actually manifest in actual physical way of you moving or starting to think about changing place of living to a different place or to a different state. And there is this, you're in a preparatory period, those couple of months, October, November, are maybe considering, maybe thinking, but look for such trends. So there might be such things that are happening. There might be some expenses, because 12th house rules expenses, about home repairs, 4th house, about travels or studies, about legal matters as well that appear. 9th house rules legal stuff, or foreign study, or foreign travel, or higher knowledge. So if you're doing it willingly, that's great. If you're not doing it willingly, not so great, but just warning you what it can play out. But if you decide to repair something, this is what the expenses can mean. Or at home, or you might be dealing with some issues from early childhood, 4th house rules, family, ancestors, that you're reworking them internally or with a psychologist in your subconscious and so on. But yeah, there might be this activation of something to do with foreign places, even traveling. Ruler of 9th, connect in the 12th for a long time. Just some kind of, just putting it there as a possibility that you might be doing October, November, December, into February, even January, February. And that doesn't have to be negative, it can just manifest. I have a couple of Leo rising friends. They're going for 2 months into Asia in November and December. So I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Relocation, foreign place, so don't be scared. But I have to warn you about the possible negatives, some more expenses happening there, or some behind the scenes activities connected to family members and so on, that have to be clarified. Or it can be 12th house, can be about hidden enemies. Now, I don't want to scare you again, but I have to put it there. You might start, becoming aware, because Mars activates this 12th house, about if someone, and might be family member, might be someone that, distant person, because Mars rules 9th house of distant people and 4th house of family members. So I cannot say exactly who it will be, but that you find out something that has been happening, like a secret, and that you weren't aware of, and you start finding those things and, having to deal with them. Or it can be more internally, as I said, something from childhood, that you gain higher understanding about, and you rework it in your subconscious from your family patterns, because 9th house is higher understanding, counsel, seeing things from a higher perspective. 12th house is your subconscious. 4th house is your early childhood, and so on. Okay. Some of you might get activated into doing some research. It can be a great time for maybe connected to higher knowledge, to something else that you're researching, studying, digging behind Mars, getting very to the bottom of it. So it's good for people if we're researching or studying deeply, investigating something. So this can be another trend you see for some of you. Yeah, there was expenses, working spiritually, being active on in the subconscious, foreign country activities with foreign countries, and so on. So there you go, Leo. This 3rd house, powerful activation, as we said, you might start like a podcast, a blog, especially on spiritual, more kind of South Node, Ketu topics, or whatever it is. But this new moon eclipse can be a theme for some of you, whether it's like this business or something to do with communication, with information, websites, podcasts, media that we talked about, and this 12th house also we mentioned. And of course, you can start with my books that are 30% off on if you want to research astrology, because Mars in the 12th house is wonderful time to study mystical astrology and third house activation of skills, knowledge, information on spiritual topics, the South Node. You can start with that book, those two books of mine, which are references books, more than 500 pages on personal transits and personal aspects in the horoscope. Now, Virgo, sun, moon, or rising. The eclipse on the 2nd of October is happening in your second house. Many times, if you're Virgo sun, you might have at least one planet in Libra. Might be Venus, might be Mercury. Then this eclipse can be, especially if it's around 10 degrees, the Mercury or Venus, can be very potent for you, can be life-changing. But otherwise, for Virgos, it is more in the sphere of second house is what supports you. So what sustains us and supports us? It's food, it's money nowadays, all the resources we have, it's family, it's the security that we have in life. So there can be some big shift that you start seeing already from September and October, November, because this eclipse can have an influence of 6 months. But there is some big shift, some new beginning there with one of those topics, finances, money. You might decide to start a new financial venture, but it requires some kind of sacrifice, because South Node is there with this new moon. South Node is to give up something, to sacrifice something, maybe give up some material comforts, or even have some expenses first, which eventually will lead you into more financial security. Give up sometimes might be give up some time with loved ones and family, which is the second house, which can lead you to more financial stability and success. But it might be an external happening where you have to give up something, a possession, a valuable, a family member or something, because this is family and money, second house. So it can allow you to be more self-sufficient down the road in some way. I don't know how you interpret it in your own head according to your life. It can also be new moon is about new ideas, a new activation of a new project that you can do, or maybe your budget, your finances, something that you can change there. But second house is not just money, it's your values. And for some of you Virgos, it might be something very internal, because it's with the South Node, this eclipse, and it doesn't have to be an external manifestation like your money changing, suddenly changing a job, so your finances change in some way, which can be the more external manifestation of an eclipse in the second house. But it can be more internal, like gradually, imperceptibly, or more perceptibly, your values or what you consider valuable changes. And it can manifest in different ways. For example, what you consider beautiful, how you dress, what you consider can shift into more spiritual values, because it's the South Node, and maybe not having so many possessions, maybe something about not hoarding, giving away things. This eclipse can start shifting your mind about, maybe I'll give away my old clothes and I'll just keep new quality ones. Or South Node loves simplicity, loves less is more energy here, and to make sense, and you can give up possessions or something that is, that's no longer needed for you, and it can make space for you for new things that are very valuable for you, that have almost more spiritual value for you, or make space for new wealth source of abundance for you. And independence, this is financial independence, where you can self-support yourself. And sometimes the family needs to make a sacrifice as well in order to be materially more stable. For some of you, it can play out this way. Or how the taste can change, even your food taste. You might give up certain foods so you can have more nutritious sustenance and more food that is more aligned to your higher self. For someone, it might mean giving up dairy. For others, might mean giving up grains, for others might mean giving up meat, for others, or others might mean giving up carbs to incorporate more meat, because for your higher development, for some of you, meat might be more necessary. You know, everyone has to fuel their body. It's no recipe for everyone. People at different evolutionary stages, you cannot apply the same, but there's something here with the food that you can change. And with an eclipse, it can be fast epiphany and shift in that direction, or it might be forced on you. You can't eat this, huh? Tough luck, you know. All right. Eclipse, yeah, it is also the teeth. Hopefully no crisis with teeth or some big expenses suddenly that surprise you. But there is this energy of new. You make space for something new that's more aligned to your higher purpose in a way. Now, the other important event, Virgo, is that Mars is entering its shadow phase, where it's going to go retrograde over those degrees from 16, 17 Cancer, from till 30 Cancer, till Tulio almost. So, but it's starting now on the 6th of October. So the new themes that you might have to mobilize your energy, a lot of your energy and physical and mental resource into, because Mars is where we put our energy. Where do we fight for something? Where do we work very hard for something? Over the next 6 months will be around the sphere of your 11th house. It will come for a little bit in your 12th, but we'll talk about that in December. But for the majority of the next 6 months, Mars will be back and forth in your 11th house, which means it starts a big trend there, where some of you will be really mobilizing their forces, and you'll see now, you'll see from October, the beginning, where exactly it will be. And that can be 11th house, has also meaning of gains, just like second house is material. 11th house is more like your dreams and goals, but what you dream to achieve on the social and economic level in society. So these are truly like our bigger ambitions financially, our bigger ambitions socially, our big dreams. What social impact do you want to have? What legacy how do you want to change society? Maybe you want to create a company and it will have social and economical results for you in some way. So maybe you put, a lot of you now will focus their energy, focus, that's the word, focus their energy into some long-term goal and dream. And you have to put consistent effort, especially when Mars goes retrograde, and change something and fix over the next 6 to 7 months. So there will be like this really concentrated push and effort. So for some of you might be 11th house also titles and honors, whether it's a PhD or some doctor title, something honor. 11th house can be awards, rewards, material, financial, a bonus, a government or a private or a government grant, a stipend, or something that comes to you from authority figures. You might be working hard in such direction with this Mars, really like putting hard efforts there. And by April, May, when Mars exits from this 11th house, you might see the results, like a higher, like maybe you have achieved more 11th house's gains. You have set up your situation in such a way that you have more gains, because 11th house is also your followers and your clients, the wider audience that you can reach to spread your message, your product, whatever it is. So Mars is now there over the next 6 months. Restructure it, change it, rebuild it. Mars in Cancer is like a builder that builds the foundations and stuff. Change it, innovate it, shift it. Maybe not fully new, maybe just restructure, start something there, so you can have more gains. If you have a business, we're talking. If not, if you're working for someone, it might be some project you're doing that will require you consistent effort for a few months ahead, that can give a bonus or some kind of a recognition. For others, can be like targeting audience or clients in business and so on more aggressively, but try not to be too aggressive. And especially hitting them there where it feels, where they have emotional connection, because it's Cancer. Maybe that's your strategy. If you're in any self-employed field or business field, this is your time to go after restructuring and getting more followers, clients, gains, and so on. 11th house is also your friends. So there can be some shifts that you start noticing or some trends with your social environment. Some of you might actually change their social environment, especially if they're friends or they consider them not good for them, that they are toxic in some way. Over the next 4 or 5 months, you can really shift it, eliminate friends or people that you hang out or social medias that you visit. And there can be some emotional exchanges there, for sure, with Mars in Cancer. And you'll see now who your true friends are over the next 5, 6 months, definitely, who really are emotionally connected to you and have your back. Because Mars in Cancer, if you have good friends, they'll fight for you. If you're in some situation or whatever, they'll fight for you. They'll fight with you or for you. But if not, you'd fight with them. And they can betray you even. You know, Mars there can be sneaky in Cancer. If they're not emotionally the right people for you, there can be such trends that you notice. Just putting it out there. As I'm not saying start suspecting all your friends. If anything, you'll see now some friends that are like mama bear having your back, and you for them, because it's your 11th house. So you might put a lot of, you know, energy into some group, organization, friends, or some group that you're gonna fight together for something that you can join online or just ideologically in spirit, or actually physically, maybe some Habitat for Humanity where you help others build houses. It's Cancer after all. In a group of people, you do something altruistic for larger groups of people, or you get together because you have similar like-minded ideals, and you're going to put a lot of energy together in a group environment to achieve some goal, to achieve some plan. Some of you might be working on some project that will have large impact on many people. And it might get emotional from time to time. When Mars goes retrograde, there might be some, you know, disruptions, changes you have to do. But the final result can again be great, that you achieve some big thing together with a group of people. Or some of you might have power struggles with friends. After all, Mars rules your 8th house of power struggles. And if you don't see eye to eye, you know, so it's a possibility. Mars, what does it also rule? It rules your 3rd house. Again, connected to 3rd house is connected also to social, to connecting with others, maybe working on some project, commercial, marketing, whatever, that you put a lot of efforts to. But on a final note, Mars in the 11th house, yeah, there might be some things, especially older sibling. If you have an older sibling, there can be something there happening with Mars that is stressful as well, just to warn you. And with family members, after all, it's the eclipse here in the 2nd house is family. But in the long term, Mars is positive in the 11th house, because in the 11th house is where we put efforts into fulfilling long-term goals and dreams, and Mars there makes you really go after those things. And whatever problems there are, when Mars goes retrograde, you would eliminate them. You'd rethink some of your strategies, but it mobilizes your forces, your energy for this hard work of achieving a long-term goal or dream, or social economic goal and dream, and changing the fabric of society as well in some way for the more ambitious of you. Now, Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Oh, we came to you. The eclipse is in your sign, Libra. You'll be the most affected this month of everyone, for better or worse. And Libra is, the eclipse is happening at 10 degrees Libra. We already had an eclipse in Libra with the South Node solar eclipse last year, around the end of September, the beginning of October. And so some of you already felt the later degrees, around 20 and more, felt this eclipse last year. But the earlier degrees, Libras, can feel like from 5 to 15 in particular, especially at 9, 10, 11 degrees. this eclipse activates your sun, moon, or ascendant. This can be life-changing. For other Libras, it might be more internal shift. Because the South Node is there, it might be more invisible to others what's happening, but something within you shifts in a big way, where you, and this is a new moon eclipse, which means some new beginning in your life can happen, how you perceive yourself, how your, if it's your sun in Libra, in regards to your career, in regards to your goal, if it's your moon in your personal life, there can be a big shift, a new redirection, changing of the rails. For you, it's especially important, Libra, to watch the beginning of this video where I talk about the eclipse generally, because everything I speak about the eclipse generally applies to you personally, on a personal level. But being in your first house, being in the sign where your sun, moon, or ascendant is, affects you. You're changing, you're shedding old skin. But it entails giving up something, the South Node, giving up a way of being that you were before, giving up a way of lifestyle to make way for the new. The new moon is something new. And this new one, self, is more realigned to your soul's mission, remember, and to your spiritual journey. The South Node is part there. You give up something, but you, maybe if it's near your sun there, you give up something so you can fulfill a big dream of yours, a long dream, how you want to create a dream or your kingdom. And you might have to sacrifice something, but it opens the way for a year ahead for you to really shift the direction with the sun of your career, of your identity, of your direction in life, with your ascendant as well, the whole direction in life, with the moon in your personal life and relationships. And I've always say, when there are eclipses on the axis of the first and the seventh house, or the axis of the moon, if your moon is in Libra, for example, or your ascendant in Libra, or even the sun, it's a time when you can meet fated people in your relationships. You can marry, sometimes divorce. Remember, the eclipse is on the star Vindemiatrix, which is about divorce, or, but it's like a new chapter that enters. But ancient astrology says when the nodes are in the first and in the seventh house, the south and the north, you can meet a marriage partner that is fated. It's something very important, that a fated, like a contract of your soul that you had with another person. So for those of you who are single or even not single, this, watch out the next 2-3 months after this eclipse. If you're Libra, sun, moon, or rising, especially rising and moon. Oh, my husband is, please no more fated relationships for him. But but there is this new shedding of the skin, because Rahu and Ketu, South Node, is the tail of the dragon, of the snake. It's like you're shedding your skin, you're becoming a new person now. And around the eclipse, there might be a crisis situation for some of you. I cannot hide. You have to be careful a bit more with your health, because when the layers of reality are shifting beneath you to align you on the right tracks, it's shaky. The whole immune system weakens. Also be careful about accidents and such things, because this eclipse is kind of a little bit square by Mars, a bit wide, but still. But otherwise, it's, no matter what happens, something new will appear in your life, a new direction, a new vision for you, a new, and Mercury is there, some information you can receive, which will align you on the right path. And Lilith is part of this eclipse. So it can also be about letting go, the South Node, of the lower impulses in us. Lilith symbolizes the lower, especially sexual impulses, the lower, more animalistic appetites in a human. And because it's eclipsed, that Lilith, and it's with the South Node, this eclipse, it's maybe such things can come to the surface in regards to you or someone important in your life, about those Lilithian impulses and appetites. And it will be highlighted so it can be purified, because the dragon's tail, the South Node, wants to excrete that and to purify. So you might get purified from those lower impulses, some of you as well, that makes, and nothing creates space for new beginnings and new positive things in your life as this. But there is this powerful, and there is a strong element of you deciding, because it's happening in your sign, of you deciding where this is going to go. So there's, but you know, the events usually come fast, especially if you're around 10 degrees Libra. You can feel it. While for other Libras, you know, the ones after 15 degree Libra, it might be more internal shift that they're feeling. All right. So the other big event is that Mars is entering its shadow degrees, where it's going to go retrograde over the next 5-6 months till the end of April. So now you're going to start seeing the trends, Libra, which are going to affect you for the next 6-7 months. And it's going to ask you to mobilize your energy in this 10th house here, majorly the 10th house, which is the house of career, which is the house of action. Even if you're not employed, you might be asked now, you might become more ambitious. You might start noticing from October. And also this eclipse here is like new direction. So some of you, the new direction might be like a new career or new project that they have to work in their career for the next 6-7 months. Or it might be a new boss that appears, or something that will shift, that will change. When Mars goes retrograde there, especially January, February, you'll be required to put the most efforts there. But now you still have more free will here, while it's October, moving direct in your 10th house to direct the events in regards to your career, in regards to authority figures, institutions, and bosses, and father figure, relationship with father figure. You have more free will. If some conflict with such figures starts appearing, whether it's with institutions, whether it's with police, whether it's with father figures, or some problem that you have the ability to hold back or to influence still, now is the time to do it. October and November, because after that it will escalate. You will just have to bear the consequences. But there might be some fight that is required to do in regards with authority figures, but remember, they kind of have the upper hand there. Try not to start battles with such figures, but if they happen, you have to carry this battle. If it's about something important that you hold near and dear, Cancer, you'd have to go for that battle strategically. Not blindly and ruled under emotions. But for Libra, Cancer rules the 7th house, maybe get canceled with another to help you with this battle, whatever it is. And Mars also rules your 2nd house. So yeah, for a lot of you, this can be the efforts that you're putting there with career, can be so you can change your financial situation, so you get motivated, more involved maybe with some project, or starting to look for a job, or you might be just more busy over the next 5-6 months. Action. The 10th house is action. Even if you're not a career person, even if you're retired, there'll be more action in your life. You'll be more active somehow, and active especially in regards to family. 2nd house rules family and material, arranging material things, money, family, and in regards to more active in regards to partnership, relationship, business deals, trades, exchanges of some sort, and you can feel motivated. But if there is a possibility that you start fighting with authority figures, with father figures, or even with mother figures, because the sign is Cancer, or with family, because Cancer is opposing your 4th house, just, try to nip it at the bud October while you still have the chance, November. But otherwise, by the end of April, if you chose your battles correctly, where to focus your energy, you might come up with much higher social status, much better business if it's your business. Maybe you've restructured something if you're the boss structurally, because the 10th house is the structure of your business, the leadership there. Or you might have taken your job to another more, where the next 6-7 months you might be asked to take more executive decisions of some sort. And sometimes maybe even you're doing a repair of your house and you need to do those, you need to be more mobilized and active, or you're the head of the family. So you're asked to take more executive decisions there as the head of the family, whether you're a single mom or a dad, or You might be put in this leadership position, or you might actively search for leadership position starting strongly from October. But there is activity, there is action. You are asked to mobilize your energies to get things done there, and you can move mountains, basically, especially if you collaborate with a partner, because Mars rules the 7th house. But Mars also makes a full 100% aspect to Libra, to you. It's one of its strongest aspect, the forward 90 degrees aspect. So it will mobilize your energy. Not only will you be making big things there with your career, maybe with in the outside world, but also with you personally gonna get mobilized, even physically. You're gonna experience that you have more drive, maybe more anger as well. Maybe the anger can be your drive, but it's going to push you even to work on your physical body, to work on changing if it's your sun in Libra, for example, your career in some way, to be more active as well from the 10th. If it's your moon, if it's your moon in Libra, you have to be a bit more cautious, because Mars full aspect to the moon, again, it will activate you to take action, but it might be very emotional, and there might be some fights within the family or some big changes there. But again, it can be for good. There you go, Libra. That's the jinx of it. Of course, if you want my books for 30% off for the next 2 weeks only, for viewers of my channel on astrology, I've written them with my teacher. They cover all the aspects you can have in your life, in your chart, what they mean, with remedies, with advice, and all the transits you can ever have. Whenever you have a transit, you can read the book and see what's going to happen, instead of sitting here and watching me for hours. Now, so Libra, big month for you. Big month, Libra. And at the same time, I want to tell you something for Libra, coming back to Libra. Jupiter is trining your sign the whole time, while Mars is going to be squaring, and during the eclipse time, Jupiter trines the eclipse. So I want to give you peace of mind, despite I said be careful for your health, and so on in the 1st house, for your bodily, and whatever changes are happening, whether with your career, with authority figure, with you, because there are big things happening for Libra. Jupiter is protecting you. Jupiter is protecting it, whether it's your sun in Libra, moon or ascendant, no matter what Mars here shifts. Jupiter is still next June in a trine aspect. So in your 9th house of luck and good fortune. So your angels are there to protect you. So don't you worry. It's really for good. That's what I wanted to say for Libra, so they're not scared. Because anytime Jupiter makes a trine to sun, moon, or ascendant, there is powerful protection for the individual, no matter what's happening. And they're very strongly connected with Jupiter in your 9th house to your higher self, and intuitively. Like a lot of the decisions you're going to be taking, even if you're very emotional with Mars in the 10th house, there is like you're attuned to the higher truth, and you're attuned to the right, somehow to the right solution. Your higher counsel, your higher self is very active. 9th house is the house of the higher self, connection to God, high intuition. So I know that this eclipse, no matter what it brings, intuitively it will be very good. Intuitively you take the right decisions, and whatever Mars brings for action for you to do intuitively, again, it will be very good for you. Scorpio, sun, moon, or rising. October starts with an eclipse in your 12th house, Scorpio. And it's going to be around the 2nd of October. It doesn't directly affect you, but very often Scorpio sun people might have a planet in Libra, like Venus or Mercury. So pay attention if by chance you have Venus or Mercury in Libra. That might be a very important eclipse for you, especially around 10 degrees of Libra. But otherwise, the 12th house themes will be activated for you maybe already from September and for the next 4 or 5 months ahead, because an eclipse can have up to 6 months influence, a solar eclipse. And it is about 12th house is very much connected on the external level about faraway places. So some of you might be contemplating or have to make a shift connected to moving or going to a foreign country. This is more extreme cases where such a big change happens. For example, when my husband had eclipses in his 12th house from the ascendant, that was this same year was the year for the first time he left America and traveled far away in over 10 countries within a month and a half. So it can be something positive like that. But it might be very subtle where nothing external really is happening, where there is much more of an internal realignment of your clock. Because the 12th house is a very private house. It's a house of the. Oh, wait. Just a second. Yeah, the wind almost blew me away, Scorpios. Maybe it's a sign for some of you, the winds of change. And with this 12th house meaning about moving or something, who knows? But I was talking about internal change. So this is where the most potent influence can be for you, where you notice that you're shifting on a deep level psychologically. And 12th house is where we store forgotten memories, unprocessed feelings, and traumas that can turn into self-sabotaging behaviors like addictions or fears that are illogical, or any such kind of underwater stones that trip us, fears, addictions, and so on, vices, hidden vices. So you have like a big opportunity with this eclipse to, because it's with the South Node, which is the dragon's tail, to release such kind of addictions, to release such kind of and to understand and transform them. It's very transformative when there is an eclipse. Feelings within you that were not processed and that were leading to those self-sabotaging behaviors. Even some kind of a eureka moment where your subconsciousness realigns and release, and you're kind of like a clean slate there, where you've been piling up those unprocessed feelings and traumas from before. And you're giving this rare opportunity for those of you who have reached that stage that can basically shed that skin, can shed that. It's more like astral psychological dead weight from you. And it can feel like an internal turbulence, internal storm, because when you're releasing such feelings, they can be almost like a volcano coming on the surface, powerful dreams that you're dreaming, intense psychic feelings, intuitions. Actually, intuition can be extremely powerful during this eclipse season. In September, especially the beginning, first 2 weeks of October as well. Maybe through dreams, you can be shown the new direction, because this eclipse is solar eclipse, which means new beginnings. And maybe even a psychic or an ancestor or departed loved one can send you messages in some way. Because the South Node that's causing the eclipse is a bridge towards invisible worlds, 12 houses, where all our loved departed ones, and the other side, the 12 house is the other side, the unknown worlds. So there might be a connection of some of you to those, or from your guides and guardians, or whatever you call them, from your higher self, where you get messages now. So pay attention. Or if you work with mystical subjects, which are like astrology, psychology is on the verge of mystical. They can be a big breakthrough for some of you, where you are releasing something and welcoming and making space in your subconscious for cleaner energy. The 12th house on a more material level can also mean expenses. So for some of you with strong Scorpio energy, there might be some sudden expenses that come. It doesn't necessarily have to be something negative. It just keep in mind, I have to put the meaning of the 12th house as expenses. So it's just part of this, as also 12th house is research. You might start, because it's a new beginning, you might start some research, especially in more mystical subjects, in more psychological, or it's 12th house is research of any kind of, if you're doing a degree of some sort, this eclipse can be fantastic, or some kind of preparation where you're studying, researching before that. These are all good activities for it. But as I said, it's very likely the 12th house is much more on the internal level that you experience in the dream world. If you have spiritual interests of any sort, they can be powerfully activated there. And if you work in such fields, whether it's astrology, whether it's psychology, whether it's human design or anything like that, this eclipse can be a very positive and powerful influence for you. Now, the other big event, Scorpio, is that planet that rules you, Mars. Mars is your traditional ruler, is entering its shadow zone and will stay in Cancer pretty much till April 2025. For the next 6 months, you're going to be asked to mobilize your energy in this 9th house, mostly in the 9th house, a little bit into the 10th in December and January, but October, November, February, March, and April, Cancer is Mars, your planet is in your 9th house. And that's where some of the biggest changes, because Mars is a planet of change, to innovate, to fix something if there is a problem. And the 9th house is another one of Jupiter's houses. The eclipse is happening in a Jupiter house, meaning the house of higher knowledge, and so is the Mars going into its shadow. So you're going to start seeing the trends here that you'll be working strongly on for the next 6-7 months. And they're very likely in your 9th house, if you're strong Scorpio. And what would that be? For example, some of you might have to, and Mars can ask us to take to arms, to do some battle, to put a lot of energy in something. Some of you might be some legal matters, because this is the 9th house. One of its meaning is legal matters. For others, it can be, and you have the strength to do it with Mars there. For others, the 9th house might be some educational project that you put a lot of energy into starting to study something, and some course, online or whatever, where you're going to invest a lot of your time and force and energy to master some higher knowledge. You can become very passionate, because Mars is passionate about some higher knowledge, like astrology. That's why I'm offering my courses here, my 2 books on personal transits and personal aspects in the horoscope, each position, what they mean, for 30% off. If you want to study with this 12th house of mystical studies activated, with this 9th house of higher knowledge. For others, it might be getting on, having to put a lot of efforts for 6-7 months in some higher degree or pre-qualification, especially when Mars starts. There might be some signs now from October that you want to branch out into a different area of your career, or to acquire certain new knowledge that will help you after that grow, because Mars will go into the 10th house as well, grow in your career. Now it can be a great time if such opportunities come in October. Some of you over the next 5-6 months might be studying something and decide to study something else. Others will start reevaluating their belief system, especially towards December, January, February. What you believe to be true, you might have to retract back. Some of you might change professors, direction of studies, and so on. But it's a good way to use that Mars energy there on working on your higher knowledge, on working on your belief systems. And again, 9th house is travel, faraway travel. Why do we keep seeing those themes? The 12th house is faraway travel, 9th house is foreign travel, or interactions with foreigners or people from different states, people that are not local to you. Some of you as Scorpios, and by the way, Mars is doing very good aspect to Scorpio. So this Mars retrograde period of with the shadow before and after is actually one of the most supportive for Scorpios. And there is this energy that you might be traveling, you might be moving, you might be connecting with people that you never knew before, or people of higher standing. You might be doing something together that entices to mobilize your energy there. 9th house is also the highest house of intuition, very high intuition, together with the 12th. You see, there is double activation in October, and for you it carries on till April. So I think that whatever changes this Mars cycle will do for you, it will be almost like you have your guardian angel sitting on your right and telling you what is the right step to take. You'd be very finely tuned to the higher vibrations of what is right, like as if you see any problems that arise, any situation from a higher perspective, and you can solve it using the moral and virtuous principles of the ninth house. Also, some of you might get very active in teaching, not just studying and learning, but teaching. You might take some project that is about teaching, educating in some sort, spreading knowledge. This is the house of knowledge. You might get very active and passionate about informing people, opening people's eyes about something. But there is a little danger here because the ninth house is our belief system, and Mars there might basically put you into fights about your belief systems with others, and they'll be very emotional fights. It's in Cancer. You really hold on. You Scorpios naturally, because Cancer is the ninth house of their beliefs. They're very attached to their beliefs, very attached. And Mars in Cancer makes you're willing to fight for what you believe is right. So yeah, just you have to be careful not to get into, but maybe you'll have to enter into such disputes. Maybe you have to enter into such, and it might be with your family, because Cancer is there, about what is right and wrong, about politics, about the world, about high topics, about topics that are not just personal, but they concern humanity, about and some kind of rearranging of your value, of your virtue system, of your moral and ethical system, which is the ninth house. That can be also where God gives you a lot of energy to work on your higher self. Ninth house is the house of self-improvement because it rules virtues, all virtues like truthfulness, like being honest, being fighting for the right things, doing good for others. So you might be working with all your willpower directed, because you're Mars, into becoming a better human being. And it can be an emotional process, but actually it's good because when you fortify those efforts with strong emotion, the results are even faster and more powerful of manifestation. Also, you might notice that you become more thinking about the future and how you can change the future and your goals and plans for the future, because the ninth house is the house of the future. So you might get more proactive there. As I said, some of you might pre-qualify or start studying, or some of you might start investigating something, and others might become these more optimistic. And having your planet in the lucky ninth house for such a long time, I think that your luck will be more activated over the next months. Even when Mars goes retrograde there, even if there's some battles of wills with father figures as well possible, because it is, the ninth house of the father figure, teacher figure, mentor figures, or if there's some battle with family because it's in Cancer. But still, somehow this lucky house, you have the intuition to apply the right action and to act from a higher perspective. No matter how passionate Scorpio is, I think this is a good position, and it's in the ninth house. And your actions, you're able to see from a higher perspective and to act according to spiritual laws and for the highest good of everyone involved. But be careful not to get on your high moral horse, because truly now you will be able to see better than others for months ahead what is the right path, what is the right, you can see like the forest above rather than from the trees, but this can also make you become a bit more obnoxious of trying to push your beliefs on others, so trying to moralize others as well. Or there might be people that enter, but because it's Mars is you're more like the one moralizing. Just direct it towards yourself so you can improve yourself as a human being. So yeah, activities you can start noticing in legal matters, in teaching, in foreign travels that are possible, in higher knowledge, replanning your future in some way, or projects that are connected to foreign investments that you can begin, projects that are connected to import, export as well, because it's the ninth house in some way. So there you go, Scorpio. Your Jupiter houses are activated. I think a lot of intuition coming there for you, and a lot of spiritual growth. Now, Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. The eclipse at the beginning of October on the 2nd is happening in your 11th house, which is quite positive for Sagittarius. It's making good aspect to you. But we have to mention what positives and what possible negatives can happen. Let's start with the negatives and carry on to the positives. Because an eclipse can create a crisis situation initially, this can happen, for example, in your social environment, or if you're a public figure, with your clients, with your followers. They can be initially, even already from September or October, there can be some situation there that you have to address. Also, it's your friendships. So there can be some important developments happening with friendships, where, because this eclipse is with the South Node, you might be asked to let go of some friends or some social medias that you frequent, or some groups that you're a member of, or some collective colleagues or whatever, or maybe some clients, because the South Node eclipse requires some sacrifice. Let go of some people that are probably not the right one anymore in your life, but you will make space for new ones, because it's a new moon eclipse. Something new will come, but the need for sacrifice is necessary in some way. And you would attract more spiritual friends. South Node means spiritual, that are maybe connected with you from past lifetimes, or on higher-minded topics that are less South Node kind of people, the new people that can enter your life over the next 6 months, because this eclipse is active for 6 months, can be not just past life connection, like past life, good people from the past for you, but also can be people that you're connected through less material themes, more through the topics of the heart, of the soul, maybe friends who are interested in astrology, or who are interested in spiritual topics and such ones. But yeah, and also you might let go of certain clients, if it's your client list as well, which is the 11th house, one of the houses, you might let go of some of them, so you attract more birds of a feather that are similar to you, that you have more emotional bond with, or more spiritual bond with in some way. But also the 11th house is your goals and dreams and wishes. So this can be that now you have to give up something, because a new goal or dream, or for a goal or dream that you can revive again, maybe you've had it from before, South Node is involved, it might be not a brand new goal or dream of yours, but something that you're reviving, or it might be a new one. It's a new moon eclipse after all, which you have to sacrifice something for. Maybe spending time with friends you sacrifice, maybe some other activities, but for the higher goal, because South Node requires sacrifice, that you sacrifice something, but by the end, maybe within a year from now or 6 months, depending how long this eclipse is, you'd have come closer or fulfilled a dream of yours, or gone after a new dream or goal of yours, which will, despite of the sacrifices, and which is aligned to your soul. Remember, the eclipses always align us, even though it happens with a crisis. Maybe you have to let go of some dream or goal or project of yours, but you take a new one that is more aligned to you, and this is the right thing. This eclipse might revive now one existing one and reset it, restart it in some way, that you put your efforts. And of course, the 11th house is the house of gains, titles, and honors. Some of you, it might be about start working on some title, on some, PhD or whatever it is, or on some bonus, or on some grant from government or from a school, that this eclipse activates powerfully for you. And it's rewards. It is about rewards that, again, you might have to give up something for a later reward. It might be very much not just social reward, like pat on the back, okay, this project is great, or whatever, or you did a great job, but it's very much material. It can be financial as well. because it's the house of gains, income gains. So there might be this, you make some sacrifice. It might be sacrifice of time, of whatever, or you give up something south node so you can have this bigger thing, this long-term goal and dream. Or you might even start some project with a group of people that is, if you're at such level that it impacts a large group of people that can change humanity. For some of you, 11th house is house of business as well. So there can be some activity there connected to this. And of course, there's the other big event is that Mars is entering its shadow from the 6th of October, which means that Mars will stay in Cancer from 17 degree, move into Leo for a month, then come back into Cancer to 17 degree, to the degree where it enters now on October the 6th, and it will move again. So Mars pretty much will stay in your 8th house for the next 6 months. For a little bit, it will go into your 9th house, I think. Yes, in December and part of January, but most of the time is in your 8th house. So you have to mobilize a lot of your energy into this 8th house, because that's where Mars is, and it will be retrograde and direct again, direct, retrograde, direct. And that on the material level can mean, so another financial house that is mutual finances, resources, where you have to, and I'm telling you this now before Mars turns retrograde, because you still have the ability to influence events according to your will. If you wait till, and you'll be given signs in what direction things will go, because if you wait till Mars turns retrograde, things are already in action then, and there is not much you can do about it. But now you might, for example, there might be some battle that you have, that you're starting connected to resources from others, or connected, say, if you're divorcing, and there might be some battle about, I'm not saying I'm saying if you're already in the process of divorce, I'm not saying this will necessarily mean divorce, but about mutual finances and resources. What is yours? What is mine? If it's a business partnership, something again about resources that you have to restructure over the next 5-6 months. Who contributes how much of the work, how much of the money, who brings how much of the clients, something there. If you're doing with someone together something. But Mars is directly looking at your 2nd house, so it is about your finances as well. And as I said, this eclipse is opening a new opportunity for gains and earnings, while Mars asks you to restructure, innovate, and change something about your own finances. But especially since it's in the 8th house, it might be involved with other partners, with marriage partner, for example, as well. And there might be some changes in the financial situation of your partner, readjustments that are happening. Might be for better, might be for worse, but it's affecting you in some way as well. Just be prepared. This is about 6 months theme, with the intense part being December, January, and February. But already from October, you might see the first steps. Or it might be that you and your partner decide to buy something, to need money for something. So you need to make a plan now how to mutually create more finances, how to rebudget. And you, starting from October, will give you the upper hand, where you still have more free will. Hopefully it doesn't mean that you enter into battles and fights, because it is Mars after all, and they're emotional in Cancer, with family, about money, or fights with the partner's family, because 8th house is the partner's family. There can be something there happening with the partner's family, either fights, or that you're trying to help them for something, to be there for them in some way. I remember when I had Mars retrograde in my 8th house, my partner went through some big scam was done on his phone, where he had to pay $20,000. Someone stole his phone and did a big bill. And it was in my 8th house. It was in his 2nd. So for him, it was his own money. For me, he was stressing out those 4 or 5 months, and he was trying to figure out how we can, and we both had to find those 20,000 pounds. But at the end, he didn't have to pay them, but it was a battle. And we ended up with more money, But they can be those stressful situations. Just warning you, you might have to come back to this video again to see the whole picture for 2-3 months from now. And so you can preempt I'm not saying this will happen, that there will be an attack on your mutual finances. That's very small chance, you know, but for some of you, it might be that. But it might be that you willingly and consciously decide to do something together as a couple or in a mutual efforts with another to increase finances, to improve the financial situation. The eighth house is the money of your clients as well, the resources of others. You might be into some battle or into some fortified effort to procure resources that are others, or to procure resources for others in some way. So it can be very positive. It just means that you'll be focusing there, you know, your energy and either in mutual efforts with another, hopefully not against a partner, you know, some legal battle about money or whatever, or fighting about money with your partner. But I'm telling you, if you join forces with another, this Mars will help you to receive resources from others, to provide resources for loved ones as well, and to increase mutually resources together in some way. And it can be some mobilized efforts in regards to some insurance or inheritance or taxes. So for a few months, there can be a lot of focus on such matters. Again, doing it carefully now in October and November, it will allow you to have the upper hands later on when Mars goes retrograde. So be more cross the dots, whatever, cross the T's, dot the I's, and be strategic in your movement rather than impulsive. So one mistake could be Mars in Cancer in your eighth house, doing some crazy impulsive mistake, action to put your money, your mutual money or your investments, because eighth house can be your stock market investments, in something that is risky. You don't want that. It's a big risk, especially when Mars goes retrograde. You'd have to, things will not be as you expected, you know. But if you're acting with more strategic plans, even if you have to have some expenses mutual together with a partner, whatever, it can be for the good at the end, you know. It can mobilize you also to change things there. But yeah, there can be some efforts towards inheritance, insurance of some sorts, or taxes that you have to fight a battle or put efforts there. Eighth house is house of deaths and births. Maybe I shouldn't tell you more, just giving you those two things here. You're not dying, most likely, you know, but there might be such more themes around you for a few months. And maybe you're seeing people around you, or you're thinking more about such topic of deaths and so on. It is possible. Plus eighth house and births. Yeah, there can be such developments there. It's also the house of psychological trauma, and Mars there, actually, people that have by birth Mars in the eighth house can have sudden awakening of the chakras, because eighth house rules the chakras, the energy system of the body, the openings of the body, whether they're etheric and astral or real. So this Mars in the eighth house can, for some of you, can be like a spiritual awakening, because Mars speeds up things. And the spinning of the chakras, there can be some powerful, mystical, spiritual experiences for some of you. I want to give you this end as well. And also Mars, when it starts spinning faster, the chakras there, the openings, what happens is cleansing, faster cleansing, when there's vortex spin faster of the chakras, of the stagnant energy. So what you can expect, some of you, is like big activation of strong emotions, and you might even start having some symptoms, physical, emotional, psychological. And I'm not saying that all of you who are having them, you're awakening spiritually, you're cleansing. It's good to take, you know, to, if you can check yourself with a healer or whatever. But there is a big chance that it's because those chakra channels are spinning faster, cleansing the stagnant traumatic feelings and process traumas, and opening and cleansing. When they spin faster, they cleanse the stagnant energy, and there is a lot of emotionally intense feelings that can come to the surface to be cleansed. And you might be wondering why you're feeling too emotional and too psychologically like intense. But Mars is strong in the 8th house. Mars is a powerful position there. It gives you emotional resilience to deal with that. It gives you a warrior-like energy. And because it's in the sign of Cancer that rules feelings, you'd clean a lot of traumatic feelings locked inside of you from family, from, you know, and it can be very powerful for people, whether you work with a psychologist or on your own, or if you're more introspective in particular, or if it's your time to really discard traumas, to really bridge them over. But it might be an intense process where you might have intense, not saying panic attacks necessarily and stuff, but symptoms, and it's cleansing. I just want to give you a bit of a peace if it's happening to some of you. And it's at the end of this process, you'd feel lighter. You'd feel rejuvenated. The 8th house is the house of death and rebirth. You can start the process of deep psychological cleansing, or working with a psychic or with an astrologer, with a healer, energy healer. Healers at the 8th house, shamans, or working with a cult. I'm not saying if you're a Christian like I am, the 8th house is the deep work, the shadow work that we all do in confronting of our inner demons and winning the battle. It's the 8th house, the house of the battleground. And when Mars is there, you win the battle, but there is a battle internal. So, but still, you can win the battle with your inner demons, with compulsions and obsessions of some sort, if you have compulsive behavior. So there might be power struggles, as I said. It is possible. It is the house of power struggles. But again, there is this, you have kind of like the upper hand. And of course, hopefully don't start fighting about money and such things with others. If you can avoid it, let it be on the internal side, where you cleanse yourself, where you discard a lot of trauma. And as I said, they can be opening up, really speeding up the ability to penetrate into the invisible worlds. For some of you that are working on that, astral travel and such kind of stuff can really speed up now. What else is the 8th house? It's sexual house as well. That's why we said conceptions, births. That can, you know, Mars there can be strong for that. Yeah, I can't think now. Maybe if I think of something else more, I'll come back to it. But Mars also rules your 5th house, Sagittarius. Going into the 8th house. Where's the 5th house? It's children, first of all. Goes into the 8th house of power struggles. Hopefully not that, but it's a possibility for some time. Or 5th house is also children. 8th house is conception. That's another possibility. But also abortions. So conceptions, abortions, you know, you never know. I'm not saying that if you conceive, you abort, but I'm just saying when the rule of the 5th is in the 8th, when it's Mars, there is something there, just if you're in any such stage of life. 5th house is also your children. They might be going through a big transformation. It's maybe a very good transformation. You never know. And you might have to be there for them and put your energy there. They might be changing something in a big way. Then 5th house is your creative ideas. So you might get a creative idea and you're looking and fighting for resources, maybe to secure resources of funding for a creative idea. Or, you know, so that might be another way it manifests. Very innocent, very lovely. 5th house is romantic partners. 8th house is sexuality. I think that might be good, actually. Kind of steamy, passionate. Hopefully not power struggles romantically, but there is this energy that connects your romantic partners to the sexual house of intensity there, and a sexual planet Mars. All right. Now, this is it. The 11th house, the 8th house is the activation for you, Sagittarius. 8th house is also the house of astrology. If you're interested in the occult, in learning astrology, into the mysteries, digging deep and research, fantastic time during the next 6-7 months with Mars there. Going into conspiracy, going into the discovering secrets. Oh, yes, Sagittarius. Yes, you'll discover some secrets that you are not aware of that will come to the surface. And you might really want to investigate and dig deep. You might be fascinated in anything, or you might be fascinated in the darker side, is learning about crime. If you're naturally someone who loves astrology, psychology, the occult, the positive, the light, I'm not talking negative, because you can get yourself in a lot of dark stuff here. If you, especially if you have obsessions, they might be sexuals, they might be anything that is dark. You know what it is. If you have it, everyone has some of this. That can be a big battle there, and it can get you into trouble when Mars goes retrograde. It can get you into, if it's gone too much, God can say it's time to revise your actions. If you have any such dark compulsions, dark behaviors that are unwholesome, obsessions with the dark, obsessions with dark magic or whatever, it's not going to be easy for you. I want to warn you, it's going to be even dangerous for you. Don't want to scare you, but Mars in the 8th house, if you have a lot of dark energy in you that you're actively searching, actively going after, whether it's any kind of sexual perversities, any kind of compulsive, obsessive, that you actively, or criminal behaviors as well, just as a warning, I have to tell you, or doing something secretively, which you know it's not good, which you know is not right, morally at least, you might start seeing the consequences of those over the next 4 or 5 months. And it's going to be like a wake-up call for you to change your ways there, or to, instead of actively searching those dark things, to actively start cleansing it, the shadow side. But people who have more of the light side in them, they, even if they feel like attacked or whatever, the powers in them, they win this battle. All right, if you're Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this eclipse is, this month is very important because all the important events are activating you directly, Capricorn. It's happening in your 10th house, the eclipse on the 2nd of October, which will, you might feel from September already, and you might feel into the next 6 months. And it's around 10 degrees in Libra, which means if you're Capricorn, from 5 to 15 degrees, especially around the 10th degree, you might feel it very strongly. But for other Capricorns as well, I can't be sure. There can be a big change here. You see it's on directly on an axis, the highest house, your social status can change. Sometimes I've seen people getting married with eclipses in the 10th house, people getting divorced. That's again a change of social status. You know, remember that this eclipse is in Libra, relationship sign. But it doesn't have to be relationships, it can be career, because this is the 10th house after all. And there might be some big shift in your career. For example, finishing one career and starting another. Or over the next, usually the events tend to happen within a month of the eclipse, before or after. But because the eclipse is to April activity, you know, in this period, you can see a big change in your career, the direction of your career. I remember I had an eclipse in my 10th house a couple of years ago, and first it started with the crisis. 2 days after the eclipse, my website got, and it was with the South Node again, an eclipse with the South Node, just like for you it's going to be. In my website, my YouTube was, that's it. They closed it. YouTube said, and we're never gonna open it again. Sorry. So I'm like, oh, crisis. And you think initially, I want to tell you that you might think it's a crisis initially, but it turned out to be one of the best things. And I actually solved it after that. A month and a half later, I connected with someone from Google. They helped me. But I started a new channel, which has grown tremendously. And I always wanted to have a channel just with my videos, which is AstroLada. If you don't want to watch other astrologers, this is my channel. And thanks to it, I finally pushed me to do that and to get the content, all the content I have, and store it. So there can be some crisis, but it's to align you to be on a better path with your career. So, you know, even if something is happening, changes of bosses in your career, or you're ending one project, or you're thinking of shifting something there, it's for the good, you know, it's for the good. And this new moon eclipse is about new beginnings. So you start something new, but you might have to sacrifice something. You might have to sacrifice time, or time with family, or your efforts, or some old lifestyle, or another job, or another project, but for a new one that will be better. So think about those themes. And there might be some important conversations with institutions or authority figures that are happening with Mercury together with the eclipse that can very much shift something important for you. But of course, try not to have those important conversations on the day of the eclipse, because everyone is very emotional then. But within that eclipse, some authority figure, institution, or someone in power, or father figure, there can be a big shift in the life of a father figure, in your relationship with a father figure in your life. But 10th house is your own authority as well. If you're your own boss, you're changing something in your career. And actually, the ancient Vedic text said, if there is an eclipse in your 10th house, from the ascendant they were talking, or from the moon, but we can include the sun, why not? You'd become like a king. Well, not necessarily, but nowadays it can be, you can get a promotion, you can change your social status. I remember when I had an eclipse in the 10th house, but it was with the Rahu, with the North Node. That's why I grew my business from me alone to 30 people in 1 week. So yeah, a bit of like you become like a boss or a king, or some role can appear for you that requires you to take more authority, to do some more executive decisions, to take more responsibility as well. Okay, but some shift there, definitely. Then the other big event that will directly affect you, Capricorn, is Mars. Mars is entering its shadow phase, which will continue till April 25th. So Mars will be here, then here, then here. For 3 months, it's staying in this area of your horoscope, which is your 7th house. And the themes that you're going to be focused on over the next 7 months are going to start popping up now from October, when Mars enters its shadow period. And by the way, interestingly enough, Capricorns are ruled just as equally by Mars as by Saturn. Do you know that? Because Mars is the night ruler of Capricorn and is the exaltation ruler. So it gets 3 points, as many points as a ruler as Saturn. So Mars is the other planet that rules Capricorn. So wherever it goes is very important for you. You'll be very much focused on the 7th house. And actually, it will be energizing you. You see, this eclipse makes you more ambitious, in a sense, or changes the direction of your career. And Mars makes you more ambitious. For 7 months, it's directly affecting you and directly aspecting you. It's aspecting one of the signs, it's exalted, and it rules so much. So, and you'll become, and others might activate you strongly because Mars is in the 7th house. So now you might see people entering your life, or they're starting to act in a way that is pushing you to succeed, or pushing you to do things differently, or pushing you to do something together, or even frustrating you, pressing your buttons, because it's in Cancer after all, that your partner maybe, or a colleague, or people in your environment that are stepping on your toes, but that's pushing you to change something about yourself. That's pushing you to do things differently, which over the next 7 months, you definitely change something in a big way in your life. And very much the reason for that might be another person in your life, not necessarily just your marriage partner, but someone else that act, or it doesn't always even have to be a person. 7th house is external circumstances that might push you towards something. And this activation can, for example, can mean that you start a project with another person where you're combining your energies together to do something. And because Mars is making a direct aspect to your career, so you might have to do something in a combination with another, in some collaboration, for example. And when Mars goes retrograde, you might have to correct something or whatever. It's also, Mars rules your 4th house, going into the 7th house, staying there a long time. It is possible to have arguments in the family with a partner. I have to warn you, family, partner, Mars, Cancer, emotional, or you might have some arguments then. If the relationship is legit, it will just get improved, because Mars is a planet of improvement. It wants to improve things that don't work well. And if it's not during Mars retrograde, especially if you're a Capricorn sun, moon, or rising from 15 to 30 degrees, you might end up some relationships. It might be a marriage, or it might be a business partnership, or it might be a contract with another, especially if it's not fair, it's not good in some way, it's finished, it's going to be re-examined. But otherwise, there might be just some tensions. And actually, many times after tensions, relationships, when they're talked out and worked through, after some crisis, become much better. I'm not saying the crisis starts now in October. Maybe it will escalate towards February, January, February. You would feel it, but the first signs might be from now. It might even, it's most intense in the winter season. But now we get the signs. Or maybe your partner is making a big change in their life, and that affects you directly. They're deciding maybe to start working out, maybe to change their career, because Mars rules the 10th house from the 7th, their career, their social status, or something that you might be changing there. They might be changing, and this affects you. You might decide to, 7th house is your audience, your clients as well. One of the houses, your public. You might have to change your relationships there, you're with them. You might decide to start a project about marketing, reaching out to more people, to more clients, and putting a lot of energy there. And you'll be doing this for 6-7 months. But when Mars goes retrograde, you'll see, do I want these people? Maybe I don't want those. Maybe let me change the strategy. But again, I would advise you, if you're starting a fight, a court case, a battle, or just some kind of a animosity with another person, whether it's marriage person, family person, Mars rules the 4th, or whether it's just another colleague or whatever, another person who might be activating you and triggering you, I would advise you to be cautious. You still have the chance in October and November to turn events into the direction you want if you act strategically and don't give in to the emotional outbursts of Mars in Cancer. If you keep your Capricorn energy and act more strategically, Pluto in Capricorn for the next 2 months also helping you for that. And then, because when Mars starts turning retrograde, December, January, February, it might be too late. So don't start battles now unless it's a battle that truly has to be fought. And if it is, Mars in the 7th house shows it, that it will have to be worked through, again, using strategy and not cunningness. Strategy and honor is the high vibration of Mars rather than cunningness and malice and aggression. Then you can come out victorious in that dispute or whatever it is. But also it can mean that you're just putting energy with your family towards some project, or energy that maybe towards with your partner, you're working hard on something to do with real estate. Mars rules the 4th house, and something to do with some mutual goal together. Mars rules the 11th house for you, and you're working on some mutual goal, 11th house, or dream, or desire to have more gains and earnings, which is also the 11th house, in a partnership for 6-7 months, and that you can't do things just alone, or that you have to take into consideration others and to follow their lead, or to work equally with them in some way to solve a problem, or to achieve more gainfulness, or to achieve some mutual goal together. Okay, that's, I don't want it to sound scary, but of course, when Mars is, especially if you're Capricorn from 15, 16 degrees onwards, the next 6 months, Mars aspecting your sun, moon, or ascendant is not just relationships from the 7th house, but it's directly you. There's a possibility for more inflammatory conditions, accidents, situations of breaking or hurting yourself, scratching, cutting, or inflammatory things. And it's good thing with Mars, when it's so emotional, is maybe do sport with your partner together, because it's in the 7th house, or just do sport anyway. Go swimming if you can, Cancer, or if you can go on any kind of physical activity, as long as it's not risky. Nothing risky, because you don't want to do this when Mars is aspecting you. Then it's, it can diffuse the steam, because you can feel more steam, definitely, and pressure from others. But remember, it's for the good. If others are stepping on your toes, they're working, God is working through them to make you change something, to improve yourself in some way, to change strategy in some way, and or to become more ambitious and to put more efforts in something. All right. Now, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, October. There is an eclipse happening in your 9th house. We had already one eclipse, solar eclipse in the 9th house last October or September 2023. But maybe it's happening at exact the same degree that eclipse happened in 2004 and 2005, in particular in October. Maybe if you remember then, think back. What were you doing then? What did you do something different? Maybe something similar can happen. I can give you an example for me. 2005, right a week before the eclipse in my 9th house, the same eclipse with the South Node in Libra in the 10th degree, I started my first astrology lesson. 9th house for us Aquarius is about higher knowledge. So, and the South Node is very spiritual in nature when it causes the eclipse. So I'm telling you, it can be something good that you discover some new knowledge that opens you to higher perspectives of life, or helps and will help you to grow in moral and spiritual values as well, not just in knowledge, because the 11th house is the house of virtues, of self-improvement. You might start on some self-improvement path as well. This was the time when I discovered my spiritual teachers, the last 18 years ago, whatever, when the same eclipses were happening in our 9th house, being Saduno and Rudolf Steiner, even though they're not alive. But you can discover a new spiritual path. You can discover new inspirational role models of more spiritual nature. Of course, you have to sacrifice something, because it's an eclipse with the South Node, and it requires some sacrifice. I had to sacrifice. I was studying 8 hours per day. I sacrificed so many things so I could study astrology, and I did it from the beginning. But something can appear in your life now with this eclipse that brings new meaning to your life. New 9th house, the house of purpose, why you're here, meaning, why you wake up in the morning. That's what happened with me 18 years ago, 17, when the eclipses were happening there at the same place in the 9th house. Of course, there can be some crisis. There can be some crisis of faith, for example, because you're leaving behind some old belief system of how you thought the world was, and you're allowing new ones. I remember the last year and this spring, there was an eclipse in the 9th house for Aquarians. It was with the South Node again, but it was the lunar eclipse. I started noticing, I'll give you an example of me because I'm Aquarius rising, but I started on a journey with a mentor to transform my belief systems. And it involves a lot of affirmations, but deprogramming. The 9th house is the propaganda, how we were programmed, our belief systems by family, by culture. And it can be wonderful programming, but there is always something dysfunctional for everyone. And now this eclipse wants to highlight again those dysfunctional beliefs, because the eclipses in Libra started a year ago. And maybe some of you started noticing that you're changing how you think, how you perceive realities, not to be so extreme in your beliefs as well, to remove outdated beliefs and to welcome new ones. Because I have Saturn in the 9th house. So my belief system is that only hard things are worth it, everything, only hard things. It has to be hard for it to succeed. That's my God is very strict God. That's why I'm very strict morally towards myself, and I beat myself a lot. But now with this eclipse is happening right on my Saturn in the 9th house. So I'm telling you as a story because it's happening in your 9th house. Maybe you can relate. It's been that maybe things don't have to happen with difficulty every time. Maybe not everything is about hard work. Sometimes it's about having strong enough faith, and things can happen with ease. That's what I've been working with the mentor, 9th house, to reprogram, because I always thought if it's not hard work, it's not going to happen. And it's been working. It's been working not to be so. And I've been working on deprogramming all the pain from my father, all the pain from the scary god that I was instilled in me since childhood, the god of punishment. That's for me. I don't know what is for you. You might have Venus in the 9th house. Maybe your belief system is that everything comes to you with ease, which usually that might, but maybe there is need to deprogram something that sometimes you have to put effort. So for everyone, it will play differently. I'm just giving you my example, how and it's been very subtle because it's South Node eclipses, the internal process, but it's been very liberating and freeing because the South Node Ketu wants to liberate us from oppressive or outdated or beliefs and programming that are blocking us. Your programming might be that I'm never gonna work because no one who works honestly can make money. Or, this can be maybe your parents were saying, all the rich people are mafia people. So like money, you associate maybe a success or your success with something, and this is this deep programming that this eclipse is further helping. So for me, is working with a coach. For you, it might be just coming to this realization on your own and starting to realize it. Whatever your false beliefs are, or beliefs, they might be false for you. They might be not false, but not right for you anymore. And they might be right for someone else. You don't have to shove them up down other people's throats, so to speak. But it's the right beliefs for you to live now and new ones to come that are more aligned with your self-growth. So this eclipse is a great opportunity for self-growth. Again, there can be some crisis with belief system or whatever. There can be some crisis with a father figure or a teacher figure as well, because it's an eclipse after all in the relationships there. There can be some crisis, or it can also open up new opportunities for foreign travel. But again, it might come a bit of as a surprise, or something to do with foreign countries, import, export, communicating with foreigners or people that are far away from you, studying as well, 9th house. It might activate that you start learning something new, like I started learning astrology, or that you might go on a new university degree pre-qualification or something like that. Well, that would be interesting if it happens. But something new that brings meaning in your life comes, but it can come through a crisis first. So foreign travel, foreign places. Yeah, so more travels are possible there as well, or even spiritual travels, because the South Node is in your 9th house, not travels for, these are travels that might actually bring you to places you've lived past lives, or connect with people from abroad, from countries that you had past lives with, or connect you, travel that when South Node is past lifetime in the 9th house of traveling and spiritual trips and journeys, you can go to some kind of what are they called? Like a spiritual journey. And it can feel really unburdening for you, and it can feel really like shedding your skin and renewal for you. And there might be even for some of you initiation, meeting a special teacher, like I said, who knows? You write to me in a month or two if anything around those themes is happening. The 9th house is legal matters. There might be some reset there if you're dealing with legal matters, some important development as well. What else is 9th house? I think we covered a lot of the meanings. Yeah. Okay. And then the other big event is that Mars is entering its shadow period into your 6th house, where it's going to stay pretty much till the end of April. Mars will enter for a little bit Aquarius in December, Leo, and will become retrograde in Leo, and will stay there the whole of December. So December and part of January, you're going to have Mars in your 7th house, retrograde, but only the early Aquarians like me will feel it, which can be some challenge with relationships, some fight or some big change in your relationship, moving or whatever, or some effort that you take together and you change something in your life as a couple, or reevaluation of a relationship, or doing something with another person. But for the majority of the time, Mars will be retrograde in our 6th house. Okay, so already from October 6, Mars enters the degrees through which it will be, and especially if you have planets in Aries or Capricorn or Libra or Cancer, you have to be a bit more careful with your health, because Mars will be squaring them or opposing them. Like I have all my planets in Aries and Libra. So yeah, for some of you Aquarians, if you don't have planets from 17 degrees Aries till 30, or 17 Libra till 30, or 17 Cancer till 30, and you're Aquarius rising, you're okay with your health. You're not going to have problem. But if you have, there might be some inflammatory conditions. So watch out for signs. I'm telling you earlier, because you might have to correct and change your health. And if health problems start appearing October, November, it's a sign for you. Those health problems are due to lifestyle, due to environment, lifestyle, something that you can change. The health problems that you can't change, they're 8th house connected. But here now, it's a call for you to mobilize your energy and your strength to change some if health problems start appearing. And if they don't, preemptively start from October. Start doing something martial for your health, exercise, posture, whatever efforts, swimming, it's in Cancer, drinking hot water, because Mars, hot, Cancer, water, doing cleansing fasts, because again, Mars and Cancer has this energy. Water fasts or such kind of stuff, whatever it is for you, for everyone, it will be a different thing, but start preemptively. And it's about eliminating bad habits as well. There, Cancer is something you're very attached to. Aquarius people who have strong Aquarius and their 6th house of habits has, and whether bad or negative habits has Cancer there. When they get attached to a habit, they give it up very difficult. That's why Aquarians are known to have more addictions than others. Aquarius rising in particular, less so Moon and Sun, but in Aquarius, but still it's the 6th house of Cancer, which is Cancer rules kind of where we emotionally self-soothe. 6th house is how Cancer is self-soothing. 6th house is self-medicating. So Aquarians can have more things like because they don't know what to do with feelings. It's an Aquarius. It's in the 6th awkward house, the feelings of Cancer. So it's kind of usually tend to have a fast solution or self-medication or whatever. So if you have any of such issues, this Mars there will really help you mobilize your willpower to fix things. Preemptively start from October, whether you're fasting, whatever it is, doing something from your health. I jump on trampoline. I stopped. I'm going to start again. Oh, a kitty came. Oh, talking about kitty. Let me show it to you. Such a cute kitty. I don't know if you see it. There you go. Take a pet if you can. Mars in the 6th house. This reminded me because 6th house rules pets. Like they're like a doctor to us. 6th house rules doctors, and they can actually act like a healing energy for us. And with Mars there, maybe maybe a dog or whatever. It might be a snake, whatever you want. But for me, it's a kitty. I love kitties. The kitty pass, maybe it's a sign. It can even have balancing effect on your mental and physical health. I remember when I was very sick, and this cat started coming and sitting on me, because we have just like an open yard here and cats come, and started coming and helped me through this difficult 1-2 months of the sickness, and then it went away. So anyway, just maybe it's a reminder. That's why to tell you, some of you. But also, you might have to pay more attention to your kitty or to your pet or whatever. But Mars gives you a unique ability over the next 7 months to transform your health with your own personal power. Mars rules your 10th house of action. Mars is It's wonderful in the 6th house, even though sometimes it can trigger health issues, but only because Mars allows you there to win them, to overcome them with your willpower and with changes that you make. Actually, in Vedic astrology, they say if someone is born with Mars in the 6th house, he would overcome all illness. He would have this ability, this fighting ability to overcome and to win. But they say there will be very strong constitution, but obviously there will be some illnesses to overcome there. So I'm just wanted to tell you here the heads up that you'll be able, a rare opportunity to overcome health conditions or bad habits, to overcome them, to fix your lifestyle and habits, or drugs, or whatever it is, whatever you're self-medicating with, in a positive way. And Mars also here is about work. 6th house is not just daily routines and whatever, but something will be disrupted with your daily routines, especially December, January, February. There'll be some big shift because your daily routines are changing there during Mars retrograde. But you can start now from October, like we said, those things, plus some new project can come for work, or that you might be required to work very hard for the next 6 months. And you can do a lot of progress now in October and November with work. Then from December, Mars starts turning retrograde. So it's not going to be so much work. It's more going to be like fixing work you've been doing now. But now you can see the trends. Maybe a new project comes or a new job comes for you. And you start putting a lot of efforts into it, a lot of willpower into it. It's connected to your career as well. Mars, it rules the 10th house, and there might be a lot of mental work because Mars rules the 3rd house, where you have to use this. Now I'll be starting to do the yearly horoscopes now for a month or two. It's so much like Mars in 6th house definitely makes sense for me. Work, a bit of workaholic energy. But Mars gives you the energy, gives you the stamina to get it done. And then when Mars starts going retrograde, more into the winter months, you might revise this work, or revise if you want to stay in a certain job, or if you start noticing that problems are appearing with your workmates, in your work environment, with the people you work, or with your employees, or at work, some problems. You have now in October and part of November still ability to influence them according to your direction, to start strategically to fix those things, to improve them. So when Mars turns retrograde, you have the upper hand and things don't escalate, some fights in the office, or you leaving if you still like your job, but because something is happening, So try to be proactive now and do the hard work, do as much as you can, October, November, and not to be emotionally reactive, to think well, whether you want those people still to work for you, or to work with them, or for you to work in this office. Use this time, and if things don't get better, when Mars goes retrograde, you'll make a big change there, maybe get rid of whatever. But if you can now influence it well before the retrograde, you might, then not be so complicated after that. But on a more positive note, it might just mean you're working extra hard, you're putting a lot of energy into exercise, into nutrition, into health, into healing procedures, into diagnostics of any sorts, into trying more. Mars brings the energy of something new healing methods or whatever. And I hope it doesn't go into fighting with workmates or at your work and so on. And Mars makes direct aspect to your 9th house there, your 12th house, busy dream cycles, or you can be fixing, repairing something. 6th house, the house of repair, to make something better, fix it and so on. And also to hone your skills. Mars makes an aspect to the 3rd house. It's a honing of skills. Be careful not to fight with father figures, Mars in your 6th house for 5-6 months, making a square to the 9th house of father figures, or but also you can make changes connected to put a lot more action towards traveling, which again activates that topic we talked, the eclipse in the 9th house, Mars activates it, and so on. Also, if you have a debt of some sort, you might mobilize your forces to pay it off now over the next 7-8 months. But Don't get into new debt when Mars turns retrograde from December. If possible, try to do things now while it's still direct, you know, or you can get some loan or debt or something. You can streamline it or remortgage or something like that. You know, this is what the sixth house is about as well. And fighting with your weaknesses there, because 6, 12 houses are those things that are weaknesses, but you win the battle, thankfully. Now, and don't worry though, despite of those scary things about Mars in the 6th house of health, Jupiter the whole time is trining your ascendant or sun or moon till March, no, till May, June 2025. So your physical, even if there's some things you're correcting here with the health, your overall body, Jupiter is protecting you. By the way, Jupiter is turning retrograde in your 5th house in October as well, Aquarius. So some creative project you haven't completed, you can come back to it, or some business project that is your own baby, you can come back to it, redo it, or maybe you might have to revise something about your children, but it's all for good because it's Jupiter aspect. Maybe an old love can start coming back, or, you know, revisiting all places and activities of enjoyment and leisure that you really liked as well, that you, of holidays, and that's for 4 or 5 months ahead, that you can revisit such places, go back. All right, now let's go to Pisces. Sun, Moon, or Rising. Pisces, the eclipse on the 2nd of October is happening in your 8th house. Doesn't directly aspect you, but still you can, some of you, maybe more on the internal level, because the 8th house is an internal psychological house. And the eclipse is with the south node. It's more of an internal psychological energy. I think Pisces felt a lot more the first eclipse, which was in September, because it was in Pisces. This eclipse in your 8th house is more about aligning of the layers of your subconscious. And the 8th house is where we store the trauma, where we store the unprocessed feelings, and where there is also where it's our shadow resides. And to this shadow get attached parasites, entities, energies, and people that want to abuse, take advantage, and so on. So this is the house of as well power struggles and so on. It's also the internal battle with their inner self. And this eclipse unlocks those themes. So you see, it's more internal energy, psychological, but it's with the south node. So, and it's new moon eclipse, so it clears the old muck. South node is the tail of the dragon, where you excrete all this muck day in this 8th house. So it might be like a powerful release of emotions that you feel in September, October, November, while this eclipse is very strong for you, where it's like emptying a lot of dirt of painful feelings and traumas, and even parasites, and even parasitic entities, and your own shadow, your own guardian of the threshold, as they call it, that like Dorian Gray, the reflection that carries all the sins, you know, we carry each one of those shadow figures in us. And you're cleansing that. And 8th house is the house of the chakras, and this eclipse spins it and purifies it with the south node of excretion of the dragon's tail. So there is this one. It might happen spontaneously, even some spiritual experiences, but it might feel intense at moments, like a volcanic eruption. And it might be very subconscious for some of you. Just suddenly in a few weeks, you start feeling like, oh, I feel like there's lightness here after this first intense darkness of this dark energy coming out. And then you might feel, oh, okay, there's lightness, like I'm not carrying this heavy emotional burden or baggage, you know, because you released it. But the release itself might be a bit like a purge. Imagine a purge, so you can, but emotionally, it might be even physical, something like that, you know, back, front, you never know. But it's also liberating. 8th house is a moksha house of liberation, being freed. The south node that causes the eclipse is about liberation. There is liberating energies from inner demons or whatever. It's also making space for something new of the 8th house. And because it's a new moon eclipse, something new can come to you there. What can it be? It can be on the material level, on the emotional, spiritual level. It can be new emotional resilience, strength, lack of fear, like you release fears and stuff and you come up like with emotional strength there. On a material level, it can be a new source of support for you, psychological, emotional, or financial, but that comes to you from another, because the eighth house is the house of support coming to us from others, other people's resources, their skills, their talents, their whatever it is. And you can make space by releasing something, sacrificing something, but for you to come, you sacrifice something, but support comes to you from others. And you can receive that over the next few months. You know, maybe your partner's finances, maybe other people in some way, or maybe a new beginning in your mutual finances with your partner, maybe a new idea where how you can gain more through others in some way. It's also the eighth house. Like, of course, there can be some crisis, activations of topics of death, birth, inheritances, insurances. I don't want to go deep into that because it scares people, talking about death, talking about inheritance. But it's also activation of the eighth house is conception as well. It's the gate of death and birth. So there might be such themes that actually happening around you of death, inheritance, or conception, or that you're just watching or noticing it more, you're thinking more about the topics of those more occult topics that people dare go there, like death, life after death, past lives, rebirth, life after death, or, you know, all of those taboo topics. Or your mind might be much more aligned to more occult topics, more conspiratorial topics. And it might be some new beginning for you, some new interest. For example, when I had eclipses in my eighth house in Libra, even though I'm Aquarius rising, but with Placidus, Libra falls in my eighth house, I started studying astrology exactly on the same eclipse 18 years ago with the South Node. So it might be that it opens a gate for you for new knowledge that is deeper, that is more profound, or finding some secret. Mercury is part of this eclipse, finding some secret information that can be good as well, you know. And studying astrology, psychology, something deep research that you can do that this eclipse can activate for you. These all are good stuff. Or making you think about the transitory nature of life, that nothing stays the same. This is the eighth house, sudden changes. And sometimes it can activate a sudden change in your life. But know that this sudden change is for good, because eclipses wants to align you to the right path of your soul. It's not about punishing you or hurting you with something. When we veered off, if something more dramatic happens, the realignment process is more dramatic as well. So it can feel like a crisis and shock, because it's the eighth house of crisis and shocks, and eclipses can do that. But if you haven't veered off of your path, if you're on the path, it can be something very organic and generic, even though still fated, you know, but a new discovery of love for spiritual, occult, secret topics, a new source of investments, because eighth house is investing in stock market and so on. It can be a new insurance policy. You make something super mundane, you know. But yeah, there is the possibility of some crisis. Eclipse in eighth house, in the eighth house of crisis, or just thinking about such topics, like I said. But it's also a release that we talked about, and healing. When I had an eclipse in my eighth house, but Jupiter was also there, it was total shift of my energy. It was incredible. And meeting of my soulmate and getting pregnant. As I said, it's pregnancies and so on. So anyway, now on another level, the next big event this month, Pisces, is that Mars is entering its shadow phase into your fifth house in Cancer, where it's going to stay pretty much till the end of April 2025. So from around 17 degrees from the 6th of October, Mars is going to be moving over the degrees in which it will come back over the same degrees in January, in December, January, and February, and then move again. So it means you'll be concentrating your energy, your force for almost 6 months, starting from October, in this sphere of your life, which is connected to the 5th house. And what is it? Mars can call you, and you're going to start seeing what will be the themes for the next 5, 6 months, 7 months, even 6 months from October, from the beginning. It will be something connected to some of you with children. Maybe your children will start a new phase in their life and you need to help them. They're starting a new life somewhere or whatever. Or maybe some of you might start like concerted efforts to get pregnant or to, maybe there might be some, in worst case scenario, some kind of a trouble that you have to help your kids with, or more difficult period you have to help them through, or some kind of a power struggle with children, grown-up children, loved ones, romantic partners, because the 5th house rules also romantic partners and children, you know. So there might be something there that if you start seeing signs of problems in October and November, while Mars is still moving direct, but in the shadow area, then you have to act fast, quickly now, already from October and November. Don't leave it till Mars turns retrograde, because then you're just left with the consequences. You can't do much about it. You just have to push through it. So if you start seeing problems on your romantic life, with your children, or with some creative project, which is another 5th house meaning, just try and start doing the structural changes, and usually they require willpower, and they require more discipline, because this is the energy of Mars, discipline, willpower. Maybe putting more discipline in the relationship with your children, more whatever, giving them more harder tasks. You know, if you see they're going on the wrong path, start taking preemptive measures. So with your loved one romantically, if you see something is happening there, start having clarifying conversations. Try not to be too emotional, because Mars in Cancer can act, especially when it's retrograde there, January, February, can act too impulsively, to like say hard words and explode. And so try to remember in the next 5, 6 months with children, with romantic partners, in regards to that you're not extreme in regards to creative projects, and that you keep yourself more, you know, count your 5, be more strategic, and you can turn things for the better. Ultimate goal of Mars is to improve things. So you can have a more improved situation of your children, more improved romantic relationships. And usually, many times, romantic relationships after a crisis get better, because the two partners really appreciate themselves more. Unless it's not the right romantic relationship, then Mars, especially January, February, can remove that romantic partner for your life. But otherwise, it tends to strengthen it. Or you might be doing something that requires your efforts together with your children, maybe some project together. This can be a great way to use Mars retrograde for so long in your 5th house. Get a project together with your children, start working out or whatever, or building something, or with your romantic partner, get more active, you know. But also Mars will almost maybe a creative project, start a creative, put all your energy in some creative project. When I say creative project, I don't necessarily just mean painting, singing. It can be your own original idea, some personal business, for example. And Mars rules your 2nd house, Pisces, so it's directly related to your money. And Mars also rules your 9th house, your lucky house, going to 5th house, lucky house. I think that overall, I had to mention how it can go more difficult in some 5th house matters, but overall, it will be quite good. Actually, you can really mobilize your energy for 6, 7 months to do some original idea of yours, maybe a business or whatever, that can bring you more money, because Mars rules the 2nd house. That can expand your luck. That is that can, and even there can be something connected to romantic partners from abroad, or traveling for fun, or traveling for love, or traveling with your children, the rule of the 9th and the 5th, or education, putting a lot of energy. Mars rules your 9th house of education of your children, or it's your own education as well, your own knowledge, maybe knowledge that will expand your creativity and skill set, and that will improve your finances as well. So this is, for some of you, for many of you, this Mars can be amazing because it's in a lucky house. Mars will unlock this luck for you from past lifetimes. The 5th house stores the luck from past lifetimes, according to ancient astrology. And Mars, there activates it. And you might be even called to do some great, very good deed, because Mars rules the 9th house of good deeds and virtue, and to fight for something meaningful for you, and to put energy there in some way. But it's, it can be quite positive, actually. I think it will be, because Mars is a positive planet for Pisces overall, ruling a good house, the 9th house, being in the 9th house, good for you. Unless you have planets in Aries or Libra and Capricorn, usually it's not gonna get difficult for you. If you have planets in Aries or Libra and you're Pisces arising, they might have to be careful about spending a bit more for loved ones, for children, on pleasures. There might be more expenditure, or partners and so on. And then there might be more power struggles with those 5th house matters that I talked about, because Mars is doing hard aspects from your 5th house to other planets, whether in Capricorn, Aries, or Libra. But it can also mean that you really invest your energy in some project that you hold dear, and you put a lot of it. And then when Mars goes retrograde, you revise it or something like that. So yeah, there you go. Pisces, 8th house activation, 5th house activation. Actually, for you, Mars retrograde will be some of the most auspicious than the other signs, which might be a bit more challenging for some of them. But yeah, and Jupiter, your planet, is turning retrograde this month. You might go back to some things, maybe to a place you love before, to visit your parents over the next 3-4 months while Jupiter is retrograde in the 4th house, to go back to, or to start digging back into your history, family history, healing family wounds. This eclipse in the 8th house also helps with that. Jupiter turning retrograde. So something in your family can change direction as well from October, where you want to live, or something with the family dynamic. But it's good because it's Jupiter. It's different. It's somehow different. And Jupiter also can be about going back to the roots, exploring your family, exploring your family history or behaviors, and healing. And when Jupiter goes retrograde, it's not so much external changes that happen, more internal, and you're integrating those changes within you, which is about healing the soul. And it's a very cozy energy, Jupiter in the 4th house. I love when Jupiter is in the 4th house from my ascendant, even from the sun and moon, because it's the house of peace, it's the house of inner contentment and happiness. And Jupiter there guarantees you this, maybe feeling more like being at home, being cozy, feeling. There was like always emotional healing for me then. I don't know, it's one of my most favorite transits, where I feel happiness in a content way. But don't worry, Mars will also here ask you to paint the town red. Mars in the 5th house, oh, believe me, you'd want to party, you'd want to be in the, especially if you're in your careers that are 5th house, if you're in the public eye in some way, if you're a performer, if you're someone entertainer, if you're a politician, such kind of center stage roles, Mars here will make you very busy for 7 months, very busy. It can actually move your career to the next level. You can create new things. You can gain some important role or creative project. Or if you're anyone in creative fields or working with children, again, very busy period for them ahead. Maybe you'll be given some, a lot more responsibilities to work on, to do. But you can really allow yourself to shine in 5th house, Aries, Pisces. Thank you. And I love you guys. Take care. May you all be blessed.